Trigger warning for forced pregnancy, sexual assault, rape, graphic depictions of injury and violence, panic attacks, agoraphobia, suicide attempts, torture, war, murder, and general bigotry.
It's called Smut. Give me smut and nothing but a dirty novel I can't shut if it's uncut and unsut.
Well, it's I don't care for myself. Like, I've got no shame
Hey,
about it.
I care
Like,
about you.
Hey, thanks. I don't. Throw me in the trash. No, but like, I just like, I don't care. Like, I'll talk about it. I have no shame telling people, like, sure. And then I go, oh yeah, I can't really be like, Mom, listen to this podcast I'm on.
Yeah.
If you really want to hear about my sexual habits.
Yeah.
And I think, like, well, maybe I'll probably start putting this in the actual, like, Spotify description where I'll be like, not safe for work, or like, because we do put trigger warnings.
But I feel like it's assumed, like, when you know what this podcast is
Right.
about,
Yeah.
that, like, we'll be talking about sex. Like,
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
the
it's called
opening
filth.
song is smut.
Smut.
Like,
Give me smut and nothing but.
really, all of this is stalling, getting into the adventure that Emily has gone on in the last 2
What
weeks.
is this?
Which I'm so excited to talk about.
Yeah, we don't even need to do a podcast though, because I had one. I was
don't.
like, it's not even fucking worth
No,
it.
we don't.
Because so this week's theme was shared secrets, in parentheses, enemies to lovers,
Sure,
which
yeah.
was we had decided it was basically an enemies to lovers story in which the two main characters have a shared secret which brings them together. So that's not really a trope that I can search for Kindle Unlimiteds or books.
Whereas I immediately knew what I was going to do.
That came to mind. And I was like, I'm sure I have something. Something did come to mind, but I wasn't really a fan of the book. It was okay, but that's not something that that's not a feeling that I want to have when I talk about a story here.
Sure, yeah.
Because if I hate it, I want to hate it with a passion and tell you about it. You know what I mean?
Nothing lukewarm.
Nothing. No. So yeah, the one I had was lukewarm, and then I kept looking. I kept searching like blackmail, on a mission, things like that, and nothing was really coming up. And then Jessica texted me.
Actually, I sent you a voice memo.
She sent you a
'cause I had
voice-
too many thoughts for
We do. I do love that we voice memo each
Yeah, we
other,
voice memo a
because I
lot.
do that a lot with my high school friends too. Because I'm just like, here are my thoughts for today.
Yeah.
And her fic is very long. It was 77 chapters. It was over 300,000 words.
Yeah,
Which-
it is a novel length.
Yeah, and in comparison,
fiction.
like the book I wrote was 63,000 words. So I understand like how fucking long that is. She was like, "What if we just did this together?"
Oh.
So we both read a fan
Manacled.
fiction. We read Manacled by SenLinYu.
SenLinYu, who you may remember is the author who did the first fic of the season as well.
Oh,
The Snape
wow.
and Hermione.
Oh my god.
That makes sense.
This makes so much sense because
So, and this is,
Backtracking.
I believe, your first Dramione fan fiction you ever read.
I have read one fluffy one that
Okay.
you sent me. It was
Oh,
like
yeah.
years ago at this point, and I was lukewarm on that one too,
Mm-hmm.
because I guess fluff is not what I
Nope.
really want.
Right, no.
I don't want fluff. I want something a little harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
I don't mind fluff if it builds to something harder.
Yeah, or I have to be in the mood for it too.
I love fluff as an extension of a slow burn.
Yeah.
But there needs to be some, like, meat in
I-
there. I need
yes.
my meat and potatoes.
I agree with that
Can't
statement.
be all broth.
No.
no,
No.
no oil.
I'm
just
not that ill. I don't need those nutrients as much as I need meat and potatoes.
nutrients and vitamins.
Yeah.
And so I have read Pride and Prejudice fan fiction
Yeah.
back in high school. I was very big on that.
Wow.
Yeah, because I'm super cool and a big old fucking nerd. And
Even your fanfic is from novels.
Right. Right.
I know I'm such a nerd.
Right.
Because again, I'm very much like one true pair. So I read this and I had like a visceral reaction to it. I was so in love with this fanfic that I immediately went, I need more Hermione and Draco fan fiction.
Meanwhile, I am on the other end, just gleefully getting all of her text messages. Like, this is everything I've ever wanted.
Because she was like, don't text too much, but I want some updates as you go.
Yeah.
And I was like, done. Because
Because I've read this. This would be my third or fourth time reading this fic.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because I love it.
and I think I finished this past weekend.
Yeah.
Today's Sunday. So I think I finished it last Sunday.
You did.
For the rest of the week,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4.
She's burned through like
I read like 5.
the top 3 of the fandom. She just burned through.
I read like 5 fan fictions this week, and I didn't do well this week. I did not do okay. I just kept going, and I kept searching. I started to learn how to use Archive of Our Own. And
Everything I've ever wanted happened this week.
I also, and like this is something that we haven't touched a lot. We've mentioned it once or twice, like I think in first season, but I read an Omegaverse fan fiction for the first time, which is in the
Omegaverse?
in the plainest terms, alpha, omega, beta. It's more of a primal, like I'm an alpha and I'm an omega and I need you to save me kind of stuff. Like it's and there's like nodding
That's the
and
universe that you're in.
Yes.
It's like a whole other
there's
subset.
there's scent glands and biting and mating. It's like that kind of thing, but they're not animals. It's still a person.
Okay.
So that's like the very roll of the dice Omegaverse.
We'll do
thing.
an episode on it if you want.
One day, yeah, that's a whole
mean,
thing.
right,
And so I read a
Omegaverse.
Dramione Omegaverse, and I lost my mind, and I was like, "This is amazing!" So I've been trying to find a KU and all this stuff. Safe to say, after this week, last night was a Saturday. I went out with 2 of my very dearest friends for my birthday, an extension of my birthday. I am now 31, single, ready to mingle. Let me know if you're free. And I got in the car and I went, I haven't really spoken to real people in like 4 days. And they were like, are you okay? And I go, I have been reading a lot of smut, like almost too much. And at one point I texted Jessica and I said, I've read too much. I have to stop reading. And they were like I said all this to them and they because we were in a car and they looked back, they're like, this is going to be a weird night, isn't it? I go, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then casually in a conversation, I said, oh, I feel like I need to scourgify myself. Which if you don't know is a spell in Harry Potter to like clean yourself off.
And I love it too because you're not a huge Harry Potter fan either. I would say.
am. Like I don't I'm not a big fanfic person.
Right.
Like I like the original books. I like the movies. I've read them a lot of times. I know, I'm a big fan in that sense, but I don't go out of it. So the fact that I was just like, no, I gotta scourgify myself. Like,
well, and what you have experienced this past week is one of the things that I do love about fan fiction, but is also one of the most dangerous things because if you fall in love with a pairing or something,
you go hard.
All you have to do is just go down the page, and there are like thousands of free stories that will scratch that itch,
which is great.
And it's great, and it's different than KU's where it's like there's this pairing and now find something else, and there's even if it's a series, But with fan fiction, if you like Draco and Hermione, here you go. Here's 100,000 fics that you can read. Have fun. Like you have to realize you've hit your stopping point.
Yes, it was a full moment. When I also started reading this, she's like, just this is really dark. And I went, all right. Now I think we might have different definitions of dark.
Okay.
Because it
wasn't dark enough for you?
No. But like, what comes to mind when you say this is dark? Like, what is the thing that you?
So, Manacled is a Handmaid's Tale. The good guys lost, the bad guys won.
Yeah.
AU. So there's a lot of, for me, like my biggest triggers are like sexual assault, rape, non-consent, that sort of thing. And that is a key element of this fic. So when I say dark, I generally mean that.
Yeah, that's
this fic
dark.
also is a big chunk of it is happening during war, and a big chunk of it is happening in a hospital ward during a war. So they are treating people who are horribly, violently, graphically injured. So those were the two things I was thinking of, is like if you had been Emily, if you had been like really squicked out by like sexual assault, that sort of thing, I was like, hey, I just want to let you know there's some shit going on in this fic. Like, be ready, read the tags. It's definitely a dead dove do not eat type
Sure.
fic.
What do you think of when you hear like this is dark? Like, what is that meaning to you, Will?
I mean, that would definitely fall under like if somebody's like this is dark. I mean that means to me that's like heavy subject matter,
right?
Like that. When something's dark, that means it gets a little real, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't gory stuff. Like, who cares? Like, that could be very like that kind of heightened realism where it's like this is so far removed that it's surreal, and I'm not like worrying about it. When something's dark, to me, that's like, hey, by the way, just so you know, this hits some real world stuff, and it's going to hit a little close to home, and it's a little dark. So, and that can mean any number of things. Like, there's a way that violence could be like dark too. Like there's a difference between like this has a maybe too real depiction of sexual violence in it compared to like this has someone's arm getting chopped off in the middle of a fight scene. I'm like, yeah, that's not dark. The first one, this is dark.
Right. But you did not think it was dark?
No, I did, but I think because I went into it only knowing it was a Handmaid's Tale crossover. Thank you, AU. And I read some of the tags. Yeah. So I knew there was going to be hospital stuff, and I knew this. So it didn't like surprise me. Yeah. And so I wasn't like taken aback by anything. And I guess when I think of dark, I think of like, and this is just no shaming or anything. No, I'm like, there's something fucked up with this writer. Like that's what I think when I hear dark. And that has only happened maybe 2 or 3 times to me, which is really scary for me. Yeah. But that means I've read too much.
I've read fics like that for sure, but I think that is the advantage of the tagging system for fanfic, where you can kind of get a quick overview. I know what's going to
happen, or not happen, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that it's going to hit on this. So if I know I can't handle it or whatever, I have enough of a warning. Whereas I have read fics where I get caught off guard, and that is always worse and more traumatizing than something you kind of know what you're getting into when you go into it.
Absolutely.
I think maybe that's it too. I think if it really catches me off guard, that's when I'm like, oh, this is affecting me. And I think in this one, because I knew it was Handmaid's Tale, I expected some sexual assault. I expected this. I've never seen nor read Handmaid's Tale, but I understand what it is and I know what happens in it. So yeah, I was like, it was dark, but it was more sad.
It was really sad.
It's like a sad.
It's really sad.
You know what? I classify it as heavy.
It's the angstiest, heaviest fic. Yeah. But it's also the most romantic. It's so many things. It's so many things.
I mean, I guess.
It's so many things.
It's
Will, I hope you're
excited.
ready.
I'm very excited.
This is going to be a very unconventional episode because we're kind of just going to tell you a story. And we want your and we need to remember to pause to let Will react.
Yeah.
But first, Will, any questions, expectations, anything you wanna establish about, like, because you did say shared secrets. So like, what are you looking for out of this trope?
I mean, I'm looking for those stolen moments, right? Like, shared secret is like, there's got to be lots of like really quick. Did anybody see that? Like, no, this isn't right. That like being pulled together and then like, no, wait, we have to keep this a secret. Stop, we can't.
Yeah.
Like, I want that interplay. I want the tension there of like, is our secret gonna be uncovered? And like, how far can we go? Yeah. And like, how far can we indulge ourselves while not giving up this secret and like just blowing our cover?
Yes.
So like that's really what I'm looking for here is that kind of that tension there, that kind of like, ooh, are they gonna get found out? But then like another thing that I think happens with that is too, like, that bonding that comes with the shared secret, I think is a very fun part of it for me, where it's like two people that maybe aren't that close, but then because of the shared secret, like, start getting closer and closer, and then suddenly there's only one person they could talk to about this, because only one person would ever understand. I'm like,
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you.
I'm going to start us out with some stats.
Yeah.
But I will say on my end, the moment you said shared secrets and enemies to lovers last week, I knew that it was time to tackle this beast.
Yeah.
Because it is everything that you just said and more. Like we already said, it's Manacled by SenLinYu, who we already did one of their works at the beginning of the season. And I would call them probably they're responsible for some of the most well-loved, well-known fanfics that are all novel length, that are all very well written and just kind of legendary in the fandom.
That's the first Omegaverse one I read too.
Yeah.
It's by SenLinYu.
If you look at like Dramione, SenLinYu has the top 3. The first 3, as far as if you sort it by like number of kudos. Sure. It's SenLinYu. So they know what they're doing. I am sure they are a professional writer of some kind somewhere. Absolutely.
We're fans of you. Yeah. I hope you like us because we like you.
So this was completed August 19th, 2019. It's 77 chapters. It has 3,307,961 hits.
Wow.
It has 14,743 bookmarks and is part of at least 100 private collections of things that people have saved on their AO3 accounts. There are 18 different languages that it's been translated into by fans. There are 2 separate podfics, which is basically like a fan-made audiobook of it.
Yeah.
There are 22 spin-off works based on this fic. There are also original illustrations in it. Their username is Avondale. They did the original work.
Really good. Really pretty.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff. And we'll have to shout them out when we publish this because it's beautiful. And we can show you some of them along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
But that's also, people have sent away to get this fic professionally bound using that artwork. Like if you look up Manacled on TikTok, it'll be people showing off their copy of Manacled, which is when it's actually bound is massive.
I'm sure,
It's massive. It's as big as,
I think it's like a Crescent City. It's like a fourth ACOTAR.
It's a 6th Harry Potter book. It's a chonky.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Harry Potter would have been the better.
No, it's fine.
But yeah, I mean, we've thrown out enough examples.
Okay.
It's a chonky work.
Yeah, sure.
Question: does it say when it was started or just finished?
It does actually, but I didn't write that down. But
Sorry,
I can pull it up.
I'm just curious because you
No,
said
yeah. So this was started on April 27th, 2018, and then completed August 19th, 2019. Or 2018. So it was about a year.
So I wonder, can you I don't know anything about like uploading something to AO3. Like you can write it somewhere else and then just so it could have actually been completed and they could have just released it chapter by chapter.
Yeah, but that's
Okay.
unlikely.
Okay, so they probably updated it as it went along. Okay.
Yeah,
just curious.
I've never published fan fiction, but most of what I've seen, because the author will often like have notes and stuff where they'll be like, I have about half of this done and I'm gonna start putting it out there, but I still don't know where it's gonna go. So it's really common to like see in progress works where they don't know what the chapter count is, and so a lot of people, me included, I will automatically just filter to complete works because sometimes you'll be reading a fanfic and it's really good and you love it and it never is finished.
Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso.
Look at you.
Ted Lasso. But, like,
I love Ted Lasso and was excited for the updates about that fic.
I know. But yeah, that's very common. But this fic also has a Goodreads account, which,
oh wow,
yeah, even though it is a fanfic, and the Goodreads account has 19,600 reviews.
Damn.
I should review it. I'll do it.
You should, yeah.
Under my author profile.
Tags of note: post-war AU, angst with a happy ending, imprisonment, forced pregnancy, Handmaid's Tale. It is the most popular Dramione fic by the same author we started the season with, and I'm not even going to get into community stats. Really, we've covered this.
Yeah, they're off the charts.
Yeah. But again, disclaimer: J.K. Rowling is a piece of shit.
Fuck TERFs.
This fanfic
She doesn't get any money from
nope,
this.
and this fanfic is better than anything she's ever written, and I will stand by that. So
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So this was actually inspired by the author has a note at the beginning where she says she watched the first episode of The Handmaid's Tale and this started. And also she stole some bits and pieces of it, not stole, but borrowed from another fan's fanfic called Uncoffined. And the fans, the author's name was Lady of Chun. And so...
Is that also a Dramione?
That's also a Dramione.
Okay.
I've not read that one.
Me
And then-
neither.
Yeah.
Big fan.
I know. I'm sorry. And then needless to say, if you're going to read anything that I recommend, please God read this. Please God, listener.
And please God, read the trigger warnings first.
Yes. And
gonna put
I know
that
that
in.
we're going to summarize it and we're going to do a damn good job doing it. But this is a beautifully written story that is rereadable and worth checking out. And
I agree.
so if at any point you've ever had an inkling of like, maybe I'll try out fan fiction or maybe I'll try out this pairing, I would highly, highly recommend that you check this out and give it a shot because it is just that good.
And then it's all downhill from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're just constantly going to be trying to scratch that
You're gonna be
itch.
chasing that high for the rest of your life.
All right. Hermione is locked in a dark cell.
I have that too. No, I'm
Yeah.
kidding. Okay, sorry.
Wow, this is a dark fanfic.
Yeah. Right off the bat.
Literally.
The last thing she kind of remembers happening is being caught by Dolores Umbridge. And Umbridge threw her in the cell and cast various spells so that she could not see or speak. She was basically in isolation, solitary confinement for a unknown period of time. She's been there so long. She's been sensory deprived for so long.
Damn.
She does not know. The only thing that kind of kept her sane is like doing exercises and reciting poems and things that she could remember to try to hang on.
Yeah, I'm sure that totally worked.
Yeah, totally worked. So she gets, all of a sudden, after who knows how long, she gets pulled from the cell and she gets put in front of healers, doctors. The Harry Potter word for doctor is healer.
Sure.
And they're doing medical examinations on her, and over the course of that, she goes, I think I'm going into shock, and then she faints. And she wakes up to a healer basically yelling at Umbridge, and she overhears, what were you doing keeping someone this important locked up for 16 months in solitary confinement?
16 months in sensory deprivation.
Sensory deprivation. And they're saying, like, the
geez.
fact that she's not absolutely insane is incredible.
Yeah.
And Umbridge is, like, trying to defend herself, but really she's just mad because Hermione sent centaurs after her in the 5th book.
Right.
And
So is this post that?
This is post-war.
Okay.
Yes, the
So-
war has ended.
The war has ended. Voldemort won.
Oh, shit. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
That's
this
good
is
to
a
know.
post-war AU where that was an important thing for us to say at the beginning. Where Voldemort won, the bad guys won,
Okay.
and now we're dealing with the aftermath of that.
Got it.
And so they're kind of doing more tests on her, and she kind of realizes that she doesn't remember key parts of the war. There are pieces that are missing, and they do like a brain scan, and it shows these pockets of light in her brain. And what they say is that these are basically magically induced fugues and blockers that they think that she was able to do it while she was in solitary confinement, that she hid away things.
Yeah,
that
her
she didn't
magic
want people to know.
protected
Right.
herself, really.
Yeah, like as a defense
Yeah,
mechanism.
she's compartmentalizing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yes,
Very
yes.
much so.
Hardcore, though.
yeah, with magic.
And so the next day she sees one of her classmates, Hannah Abbott, like pops her head over the bed curtain, and she only has one eye. And Hannah starts to kind of fill Hermione in about basically like if anybody tries to escape, they take an eye or a finger or something like that.
Right.
And so essentially what Hannah tells Hermione is after the war, so many people died who were magical that now there was a repopulation effort.
Yep.
They tried to do that with just pure blood wizards, which are the people that come from long magical lines.
They had arranged marriages with the purebloods.
Yep. But that bloodline, the bloodlines are so incestuous that wasn't really yielding anything. And so
Right.
they decided, okay, we have all these prisoners, let's use them.
Yep.
A la Handmaid's Tale.
It's also like kind of known that magical pregnancy is sometimes really rough.
Yeah.
Like it's not like Muggle pregnancy. It's like a lot more dangerous. Mm-hmm. So just to like keep that in mind.
Because you're basically creating a new magical essence. And so Voldemort is very keen on knowing what the fuck Hermione locked away, because they're still trying to round up people that may have
Right.
escaped. They're still trying to like wrap up the war effort.
They gotta quash the resistance.
Exactly. And so he kind of breaks into her brain with this. So in Harry Potter, anybody who's seen the movies will have seen like Snape training Harry in what's called legilimency and occlumency.
Yeah, I was saying occlumency was what I...
Yeah.
So occlumency is
Protection.
protecting your own brain. Legilimency is breaking into somebody else's.
Or reading someone's mind,
And
basically.
reading someone's mind. And there's various levels of skill in that. Voldemort is known to be
a talented
a
legilimens.
talented legilimens. And it's also...
He good at probing.
Yep. And you don't really like... I don't think they talk about this in the books, but it is a fanon thing that there are ways to do it painfully and there are ways to do it not painfully.
Right.
And Voldemort doesn't give a fuck, and he uses it almost as torture for people.
It's like daggers going into your mind is basically what they say.
Yeah. But that's an important piece because basically the healers kind of step in and they say, hey, this is a known powerful person. We need her for the repopulation effort. She will
Right.
create powerful offspring. But if you keep doing this to her, you might make it so that she cannot bear children.
Right.
Like you might fuck her up.
Yeah.
Irreparably.
Like her whole body will be fucked up.
Exactly.
Right.
And so they're like, well, we still want to figure this out. And pregnancy is so kind of weird with magic and stuff. There's a chance that this may start to break down the barriers in her brain now that she's out of isolation. So we need her to be with a powerful legilimens who can
Right.
keep looking, and the magical signatures would theoretically need to match the baby so that it isn't quite so invasive when it happens. So like we need to, with the repopulation effort, pair her with someone that can break into her mind and not kill her, essentially.
Right.
And so
Enter Draco Malfoy.
well, enter Severus Snape first.
Oh.
But then Snape breaks into her mind, kind of confirms like what Voldemort was saying, and then he says, "But my lord, I'm due to go to I think it was
Romania.
Like Romania on a mission. But what about the High Reeve? The High Reeve could do it." And you learn that the High Reeve is the name for Voldemort's assassin and right-hand man,
Oh.
who's always masked. No one knows who the High Reeve is.
Got it.
Hermione then like gets put back in with all the girls for like training, but essentially all it is she's given, it's not like Handmaid's Tale where they genuinely go through training. Sure. It's more they're just placed under many different enchantments and compulsions using these manacles.
Which is a copper-based manacle because it sucks all the magic into it. That's like the metal property, I guess.
Copper and iron are supposed
yeah.
to be dampening.
Yeah.
Which, yeah.
And so they learned that they can't pick up they can't pick up weapons. They can't even pick up quills because they could hurt themselves with it. So like these manacles really stop them from doing a lot. They're told they have to be obedient, to be silent, to obey. And that's also, all of that stuff is in the manacles as well. That's the compulsions that they get put on them.
So literally if Hermione tries to speak without first being spoken to, something stops her. Like she literally can't.
Got it.
And that is all coming from them. And to not resist betting and to be still for at least 10 minutes after betting in order to let things take. Lovely.
Can't be doing no dances after doing the no pants dance.
Love that.
Yeah, no squatting and shaking it out.
Get out.
So she gets sent to the High Reeve, and she's already like learned this is a scary, dangerous person who like I don't know who this is. She arrives in a mansion and she sees Draco Malfoy.
Yeah.
And the way she like is thinking about, because all of this is from her POV.
Right.
Is like the boy that I knew in school.
The Nazi youth.
Of
my
not
childhood.
this person. Like the kind of petty, like spoiled brat.
Yeah.
Like this guy is dangerous and scary and like kills people. He
And
kills
you
everyone.
can tell like he's radiating that off of him.
Okay.
Yeah. And the first thing he does is he slams into her mind and starts digging around, and then it's really violent and comes out and is like, "What do you think you're hiding at this point? You lost. Like, who do you think you are?"
Right.
And his wife, Astoria, is there.
Astoria Greengrass.
Astoria Greengrass. And she is basically near hysterical the entire time.
Cool.
It is very clear that she does not want this, but she was barren. And so now there is a stranger living in her home, and she is, and they have to read the like family instructions together.
Right.
And she's just getting more and more like
Pissed off,
and visibly upset the entire time.
Right.
And Malfoy is just stone cold. He's just like, whatever.
No reaction at all. Some of the rules are like she has to go outside for at least an hour every day. They can put her to work, but max 6 hours per week so as to not overstress her.
You can't physically hurt her.
Yeah.
You cannot like hit her or like do anything like that.
Quote unquote performance is required during each fertile day of her cycle.
It's like 5 days out of the month, I believe.
Yeah.
It's like when you have to be bedded for 5 days.
You have to be bedded. And Astoria goes insane when it says the wife can be present for the bedding if desired, and she goes, "I will not," and she's described as pale and deranged when she says that.
Wow.
So
she's not a cuck.
no, she's not. And so these are the people that Hermione is now living with.
So
Fun.
So she's sent to an unoccupied wing of the manor, and
it.
she gets taken by Astoria to this room, and she says, "Stay here. Just stay here, whatever.
Yeah, stay out of my half of the house."
Hermione,
Basically, yeah. She's like, "I don't want to fucking see you or think about you."
Yeah, I never want to see you. Da 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 da. And we'll come get you when you need to be bedded or whatever. And so she. So
How
Hermione.
do you feel about the term bedded? Will?
It's the best one we can come up with right now.
No, I mean, and it was just the way like the first time you said it, I was like, and then like, is that the term they use
That's
in
the
the
term
book?
they
Yeah.
use.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense because it's just casual enough in that way that like really makes it feel gross. Where it's like,
But it's
oh.
clinical, but it's not too clinical.
Right,
Like,
Yeah,
right.
but you know what they mean.
Like it sounds so like blasé for what it means.
Yeah.
It's like it's really hitting that like the juxtaposition of like awful unspeakable act, really like
Yeah.
common banal name. Ugh.
But no.
You're just being vetted. It's fine.
So she gets sent to her room, and it's a very plain room. It's like a bed. There's like a adjoining bathroom
Yep.
with a bath, and there's I think a closet with all of her robes. They all the slaves have to wear red robes with buttons down the middle and stockings. There's no undergarments.
White lampshades on their head.
And if they go like out in public, you have to
Yeah.
put on the lampshade
lampshade.
Yep.
on it. Yeah. And Hermione hates this. She's like, ugh, like I don't even get underwear, but it's for, easier access.
Right.
Easier
And
to bed.
Can't waste time when you're fertile. Gotta get to the bedding.
Correct. The only decoration in the room is is a portrait of a kind of a younger woman.
Blonde.
And she's a blonde woman, and there's also her portrait's also in the bathroom. So like she just is there watching her. And in the Harry Potter world, the portraits move and you can talk to them.
Right.
So it's during this time she's in the room that she starts trying to leave. She's very like frail. Like she was working out, but like she just can't do much.
Because she was
And-
locked in a
Yeah.
cell.
in a cell, yeah,
For 16 months.
and
yeah.
she realizes that she has agoraphobia, and it's really hard for her to leave confined spaces. She's fine with the room. She starts trying to get out into the hallway, and as if she can touch the wall, she's fine. But when it's like a big, wide open space, she cannot
She
handle
has a
it.
panic
She has panic
attack.
attack.
Sure.
She has to go back into her room. So that's a lot of like the first couple of days. Then
And she does think about like she starts trying to kind of remember what she remembers about Malfoy.
Sure.
And the last thing she remembers about him is when he killed Dumbledore.
in sixth year. So
In
she doesn't
sixth
remember
year.
anything about him during the war or during seventh year is the war.
Yeah. She remembers that his mom died a few years later, and she remembers that when Draco's mom died, Lucius, his dad, kind of went insane.
Okay.
Because his mom died at the hands of one of the Weasleys, and
Got
so Lucius starts being like, "I'm gonna kill anybody that had anything to do with me
Yeah.
losing my wife," basically.
And then just-
like crazy
like anyone
evil.
with red hair, he's like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna kill you.
Yep. Yeah.
And-
Sorry, just to clarify, in this AU, did Draco kill Dumbledore rather than Snape?
Yeah, Draco kills Dumbledore, and what he does is they're in the hallway, classes are passing by, Dumbledore is there, he just shoots a killing curse at his back.
Damn.
Yeah.
In the middle of the day, they explicitly say in front of a group of first years. And then he leaves. And
Yeah.
yep.
Hardcore.
All
Yep.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is a very like, yeah, okay, J.K. Rowling, sure, all this stuff happened, but also he could have
Friendship
just
wins.
shot a fucking spell at Dumbledore's back.
Yeah, at any point,
Yep.
could have just.
Yep,
Okay,
and that's what he
great,
did.
Yeah.
So her first 5 fertile days comes up, and she is escorted by Astoria to Draco's room, where he comes in, he summons a table, and he says, lean over the table, and they do their duty. And she has to, and he's like, you can go now. And she's like, I have to lay here for 10 minutes. And so he
On this
leaves.
table.
So he leaves.
No, he gets like visibly upset and yells, "Get out," and makes her leave.
No, she still has to stay there for 10 minutes.
No, she falls and then he runs out of the room.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
So that happens.
He makes her break the rule.
Yeah, like he's yelling and he's so upset that his order overrides the rule.
Yeah.
Like she initially is like, but I have to stay here for 10 minutes, and he goes, "Get out," and she runs.
And then remind me, after that, it's in her room, correct?
Yeah, he's like,
So
from
he-
now on, I don't want you in my room anymore. From now on, I will send a table to your room, and that's when you'll know to get ready.
Yeah. So they do that.
I'll send a table.
Send a
Well,
table.
and an elf sometimes pops up and is like, he's coming.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
go take a shower.
But that's
basically.
what he says, basically.
Yeah.
Is like, I'll send a table.
So this happens. She just kind of tries to disassociate.
I know.
I
I'm
know.
just like, like, oh yeah, get ready to be in the mood. I'm gonna send a table.
Yep.
Well, and so it's very like they don't look at each other. It's from behind.
Sure, yeah.
He just raises the
He's
skirts, does
very
his
cold.
thing,
Right,
doesn't
yeah.
touch her, does not. He puts his hands on the table, doesn't touch her except for the actual bedding part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that happens for 5 days, and she's just like not doing well. And
Can't imagine why.
Right?
yeah. And so she starts at Malfoy's kind of like order. She has to start going outside for an hour a day.
Right.
She's having some issues. He's just kind of sitting there reading the paper while she's like outside.
So basically at one point he just shows up in her room. She's terrified. She's like, "What?
I didn't get a table."
Yeah, she's not. She's not allowed to say anything, so she's like freaked out. And he's just very coldly like, "You haven't been following the rules." And she goes, "I'm sorry." And he goes, "You're supposed to be going outside once a day." And she doesn't know how to say, "Well, I am agoraphobic."
Yeah.
And so he goes, "Well, I guess," he's like, "I have to make sure you go outside, so I will be escorting you from now on." And he's visibly pissed. And so he escorts her outside, sits down, starts reading the paper, and this is what they start doing every single day.
Well, the first time she has like a massive panic attack, and then he realizes he has to be with her, and so that it gets a little better. So the healer, the main healer, which is Stroud, I don't think we said her name yet.
Yeah.
Healer Stroud comes. She is the head of this repopulation effort. She comes to check on her, and she's going to come once a month, I want to say, or once every 2 months.
Once a month.
And tells Malfoy to give her a potion for anxiety because, like, she does a diagnostic. Her brain is still kind of like floofy.
Yeah.
And you know, she's just like, you're still freaking out and whatever. So she ends up exploring the rest of the house. He starts giving her a potion to kind of acclimate her to the house more.
It's basically anxiety medicine.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah.
But that's what it is. And she realizes she's trying to remember things, and she realizes the way to get her manacles off is somebody with a dark mark has to take them off. So that's kind of just like a key piece
Got
that
it.
we learn.
Yeah. And over this time, she's also slowly starting to dream what she realizes are memories. So we get flashes of Harry and her sitting on a rooftop talking, and Harry's visibly like beat down. That's in the middle of the war, and she's urging him to use darker spells, and he's saying, well, no, the light always wins. Like, we have to stick to our principles.
Expelliarmus is going to work every time,
Yeah.
Hermione.
Yeah, and it's her trying to urge him to like not make that the only plan.
Yeah.
And so these things start to kind of come back to her, and Draco, who has to keep reviewing her memories because no one else can,
Right.
is seeing these too as it's unfolding. So he's continuously checking her brain as well.
He keeps asking her. He keeps kind of going over those specific memories, but she's like, I got nothing. Sorry. It's a lot of the same. Shit happens again. Stroud visits next month. Hermione is still not pregnant. And we learned that at the 2-month mark, she is presented to Voldemort again. And he goes through her mind, and it's incredibly painful. Malfoy has to like stand there and hold her head. And like as he's like, you know, going through it. So it's like after the first Voldemort thing, they're starting to leave. And she's like, why? Like, are you okay?
Yeah.
Like, she asks him that. And he's like, are you fucking kidding me? And she's like, do you need to talk about it? And he's like, shut up. And like, they just go.
Yeah.
And so it's like that kind of moment of like, we could
Yeah.
talk. And then it's like,
Because
no, we
she
can't.
starts noticing things about him that,
Right.
because she was a healer, she knows that much. She knows during the war she was a healer.
Okay.
And so she starts noticing things about him that indicate that he has undergone the Cruciatus curse a lot.
Which is the torture
Yeah.
curse
The torture
for anyone who
curse.
doesn't know.
Yeah. So like she starts to notice like that he has a twitch in his hands and things like that. And so she starts to kind of wonder about it and kind of also be like, well, if I have any hope of getting out, I need to maybe
Yeah.
manipulate him into letting me out. And so
Right.
I'm going to try to kind of ingratiate myself a little
Yeah,
bit to him.
absolutely.
Which he knows because he reads her mind.
Right.
So like anything that.
So when he sees that, he's like, oh, really? You think you're going to really do
Yeah.
that? Sure.
Yeah.
He like
Yeah.
mocks her for it.
Nice try.
But she can't help but be like, if I just like massage his hand, that twitch would go away because that's how you get rid of like the cruciatus cruciatus.
That'll help.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know all these things that'll help.
Absolutely.
Then Christmas comes.
Yeah.
Or Christmas. He ends up getting.
Now I know
her-
where we're at.
Yeah,
We're on chapter 12.
There you go.
All right. Hey.
He gets her dragon hide boots because the little shoes, the like fabric shoes that they're given, are just getting destroyed like every day she goes outside.
Sure.
And so he's like, rather than have to buy you new fucking shoes every week, let's just get you some boots.
Yeah.
And she asks also for a calendar just so she can see like what day it is and you know
Right.
how many
And this
days
is one
it's
of
happening.
my favorite things. So when I'm going to keep stopping you
Yeah,
and just talking about
I think
my
that's
favorite
fine.
shit.
Yeah.
So when she shows up and Astoria is like basically like escorting her to her room,
Yeah.
she's like, I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to see you. If you need anything, call a house elf and they'll get you what you need. In this, she says, Draco's like, Merry Christmas. And she's like, I didn't know it was Christmas. Maybe you can get me a calendar. And he goes, why haven't you asked an elf for it? And she goes, I can't speak unless I'm spoken to. And he like freezes.
Like he
and,
does not realize.
Stares at the wall for a second and is like, okay. So from now on, I'm going to have an elf show up and ask you if you need anything.
Right. Because like I'm just like in his head, he's like, yeah, if you need something, you'll say.
In his head for the last 2.5 months, she just has been he was like, I thought it was an elf rights thing because she had that whole spew. He was like, I thought you were just being stubborn. She's like, no, I literally
anti-slavery,
right? Isn't that crazy?
So lame.
And so I just love the description of he freezes and stares at the wall for a minute because he didn't realize.
Right.
She does ask for books at one point from the house elf, but the house elf's like, you can't. Astoria has enchanted them all to be like cursed against Muggle-borns.
Yeah. Someone with dirty blood can't touch them.
But she can read the newspaper, so she gets the newspaper.
Okay.
So that's how she starts to kind of learn the fate of her friends and what's going on post-war. And then she kind of one day she's just doing her thing. She's in her jail room, and she looks up and there's just a man there. There's just a strange man in her room. And he starts to talk to her, and she's scared, but she's also like, is this an ally? Like, what's happening? And as he's kind of talking to her and moving closer to her, Malfoy like appears in the room and forcibly kicks this dude out.
She does recognize his name.
Yes,
though.
his name is Montague, and she recognizes him.
Graham Montague.
Graham Montague. So she recognizes him from school and as a Slytherin.
Got it.
But she doesn't really remember anything else about him. And she's like, okay, was this a member of the Resistance? Was he trying to make contact with me? I don't know. And she kind of sneaks out into the hallway after Malfoy like kicks this guy out, and she hears and she realizes that the Malfoys are throwing a New Year's party.
Oh, shit.
Big ball happening.
Yeah, a whole thing. And she sees Astoria in the hallway having sex with someone who is not Malfoy.
Oh.
And later she's kind of like, she sees that, and then she kind of sneaks around, and then she peeks over the banister and looks down at this huge crowd right when they're counting down to midnight. And when Draco and Astoria kiss for midnight, Draco looks up and meets her eyes. And she's like,
He knows she was there.
you know, she was there watching him. She keeps exploring. She finds Lucius's wing, and she doesn't know that it's his wing. She just she like kind of goes in. She sees a room with like a cage in the middle of it, and she just feels this horrible oppressive energy. And then Malfoy like shows up and is like, "You shouldn't be here. This is a scary place. Like this is my father's wing. He's not here right now. Lucky for you." Do not come here again.
It's full of dark magic.
Never touch this rose.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Exactly. Very much. Very
Yes,
Beauty and the Beast
very
energy.
so, yeah.
And she has more dreams, recovering memories. She has a dream where Ginny is crying and asking her for help, but she doesn't know why. And she keeps running, as she's exploring the manor, she keeps running into Astoria, and who she now she recognizes the man, and it's Montague. She keeps running into Astoria and Montague fucking each other, just
Hiding.
around, just around the mansion.
They never see her, but she
she's like,
sees them, and she's like, "Ah, fuck," and like walks away.
And Malfoy knows about this because he's getting into her head, right?
And
Presumably.
he does not react to it at all. So then
the third month comes along.
Yeah.
Strode comes for another visit.
and everyone is super, super tense because during a speech that the Minister of Magic was giving, there was an assassination attempt. So someone fired an arrow and hit Umbridge,
Who was standing next to the minister.
hitting next to the minister, and specifically her
Fired
locket.
an arrow?
Yes.
Yeah, someone fired a Muggle piece of technology
Ooh.
at they presume the Minister for Magic.
Sure.
But it kills Umbridge and shatters the locket that she was wearing.
Okay.
Which
And-
Hermione rejoices at because she hated
Because
Umbridge
she hated
with a passion.
Everyone
Right.
hated Umbridge.
Yeah.
But why include the shattered locket?
I
That
don't
feels
know,
like
Will.
that's
What
gonna
could
be-
that be?
I don't know.
Is it a Horcrux? Was it the
Maybe.
Horcrux?
Don't say that word.
Shut up.
Sorry, I'm spoiling it.
While this happens, Strode comes in and ends up, she's like, why are you still not pregnant? A lot of the other slaves are pregnant. She gives Hermione a fertility potion, which makes her, more horny. And,
Sure.
Yeah.
And her boobs grow.
She hates it.
She hates it.
Yeah.
And she kind of starts to put together through reading the paper that the repopulation effort really isn't meant to repopulate. It's meant as a distraction that Voldemort is doing, because she goes in front of Voldemort again and he looks like shit. He's physically looks like he's deteriorating. And she gets back and she turns to Malfoy and is like, he's dying, isn't he? Like, this isn't to actually, this is we are being used to buy time for him to try to figure out something to do. And Draco won't tell her either way, but she kind of like puts together that they're more meant to be a spectacle more than anything.
Sure.
Because he's dying. The locket was a Horcrux. And there's somebody out there who's still
that's hunting the Horcrux.
doing the thing.
Astoria hosts an equinox party whilst Hermione is walking along the hedges because she's getting a lot better. The anxiety medicine's working, and she gets cornered by Montague. Now Montague stuns her, and he starts to sexually assault her.
Yeah.
And she's still in her mind. She understands what's happening, but she can't do anything. And right before anything worse happens, Malfoy comes and disembowels.
She sees him kicking the shit out of Montague and then disemboweling him.
Which is
in front of her.
Guys, it's so hot.
It's so hot. Well, and he basically cuts open his stomach, pulls out part of his intestine, says, I will strangle you with this if you don't run now. And Montague runs off and he goes to Hermione and starts healing her, essentially.
Yeah, he takes her upstairs. He takes care of her.
Yeah.
Strode comes again. Finds out that how they've been having sex, which is not, they don't look at each other, it's over a table, and she's like, you got to do it face to face, and you got to be more intimate.
That's how you get pregnant.
That's how you get pregnant.
Also, you got to be laying head to feet, north to south. Come on, you're going east to west.
If you want a boy, put it this way. So he does that. They do that on the bed. She doesn't look at him. They don't look at each other. And right after, he immediately goes and throws up. She's like, she can't really move for 10 minutes. She's just kind of laying there. And
she also sees him take something.
Yeah.
Which
she
she
takes a potion
presumes
right before.
is for him to get it up, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
So he is clearly not having a great time with this.
So, and in her mind, she's like, is that okay then? Like, is he not fully a monster because he doesn't like this? Like, is this okay? And then she's like, I don't know. I can't really trust my mind right now. Beep, boop, bop. Yeah, I said Hermione determines that he's not really a monster. So he ends up going away for a while, and Astoria, after a few days, she goes into Hermione's room and is just like, you fucking bitch.
So basically the front page of the Daily Prophet is Draco showed up at the hospital
At
where
St.
Montague
Mungo's.
was. Montague went to the hospital. Draco Malfoy showed up and finished killing him in public in the hospital. And it's on the front page of the paper. And Astoria shows up with the paper and is like, I thought that she basically, it's actually quite sad.
Yeah.
She's like, I was married off to Draco Malfoy. It was a huge honor. I did everything that I had been taught to do to be a good wife.
Yeah.
And he wasn't interested in any of it. He dropped me in this manner. He left. He didn't even live here. And then you started coming around, and now he lives here, and now he's here and paying attention to you, and
The
he
plot
never
thickens.
and she's like, and she goes, and then Montague started coming around, and I finally thought there was someone that was interested in me, but now that this has happened, I'm realizing he was really interested in seeing all the wings of the house. He was really interested in me throwing that equinox party, and he snuck away a couple of times. So why are all these fucking men in my life so interested in you? And she goes, you don't need both your eyes to get pregnant.
Ooh.
So she attempts to gouge Hermione's eye out with a
Her
wand.
Pulling in umbrage.
As this is happening, Malfoy comes and saves her.
Yes.
He like throws Astoria back. He fixes her eye immediately, or as much as he can. And he's like, get the fuck out of here to Astoria. He gets a healer here to like help fix the eye because ocular
magic, like healing an eye injury is very complicated.
Yeah.
Sure,
but a big part of that too is he tells Hermione, he does like a diagnostic and he's like, tell me how to fix this. You were a healer.
Yeah.
Like, show me how to fix this. And she goes, you're a really talented healer. You could be a healer in another life. And he kind of like laughs.
Your hands, these hands, they're not the hands of a killer.
Bella. And she also is like, the other important key plot point there is he says he he apparated across the country to get to her, which is supposed to be impossible because it's a huge drain on the magic to try to jump from place to place so much. And she's like, how did he do that? That shouldn't be possible. And then she wakes up during her recovery and sees him talking to the portrait in her room.
So Hermione, during her, she's getting better. She wakes up in the middle of the night, goes out into the hallway. She finds a drunk Draco, and Draco pushes her up against the wall and is like, Granger, and starts making out with her hardcore. She's like shocked, and she's
This
like,
isn't one of my 5 times of the month.
she's shocked, and she's like, I kind of like this, but also like, I don't know what to do. This is crazy.
Yeah.
And then he kind of realizes what he's doing, and he pushes her back into the wall, and he's like, oh God. She immediately goes into her room and tries to unalive herself by ramming her head into the window
repeatedly
because she cannot pick anything up.
Right.
And she realizes that these suppressions is only what her mind makes of it. So it's if you can get around it in your mind, you can do it.
Yeah.
He stops her. They talk because he's like, you will not be killing yourself. They talk and she's kind of like, maybe I have Stockholm syndrome because now I'm feeling really like endeared to this guy.
Maybe.
Yeah.
You think?
You think maybe?
We realize
Possibly.
we realize the next time they meet, Hermione is pregnant, and it gives her incredibly painful headaches. She cannot eat or keep anything down. They're giving her nutrition potions. She's barely keeping those down.
She's super depressed.
She's just bedridden.
Yeah.
Malfoy tries to help her. She kind of is in a fugue state.
Yeah.
And he sees,
but she notices
him.
that he never leaves her side.
Yeah, he's always there with her. She suddenly wakes up one day. And she says, I have to hold on. Like there's a memory. I have to hold on. And then she immediately, all these random memories start flying out. She passes out.
Ooh, she's broken the dam.
3 years earlier, we flash back to the flashback section of this fic.
Section.
So we just
love a
finished
time
like
jump.
the first part. Now we're getting into the second part.
Okay, we're moving right along.
3 years
Earlier. 3 years earlier.
You got
I love this story so much. Okay, so Hermione is a healer for the Resistance, and we get a snippet of her horrible life, basically, during the war.
Yeah.
So we essentially learn that she is kind of been ostracized by the rest of the Order at this point because she is pushing for them to use darker spells, to use dark magic, to use killing curses. And it's because she is not on the battlefield fighting. She is trying to keep people alive. And she's seeing the results of the Death Eaters not giving a fuck what kind of curse they use.
Yeah.
And she's like, we need to do this. And the rest of the Order is like, well, that's not what the light would do. We just have to hold on to our principles.
She's like, can principals help in a hospital? No, I
No,
don't think so.
not really. Not really. So she's
do your
just,
morals keep you alive on the battlefield? No.
No, and that's her entire point. But then Harry and Ron and all these other people are like, no, we have to stick to our guns.
We have to be better than them.
Yeah, exactly. But we're coming in on a super cynical, jaded Hermione.
Absolutely.
As the war has been going on at this point, I think like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, it's not a 1-year affair. They're like 20, 21 at this point.
Yeah. And so Mad-Eye Moody comes to her and says, hey, I know you know this, and not everybody does, but we are losing this war. We are not gaining any ground, but we have an opportunity to bring in a new spy. Malfoy has said that he will go double agent if he gets you during and after the war. You pledge yourself to him, and he also gets a full pardon after we win.
Oh shit.
And he says, and Moody says, we're coming to you for this to be kind of the liaison because you are not on active duty. And as far as most, like, even Death Eaters know, you're not really involved in the war effort. You're like one of the most under wraps people that we have.
It is said a lot, though, that they're like, she's like, right after Dumbledore died, I went to the library and I started looking at healing spells because I knew that this was necessary, that someone needed to be back here doing this. And she has grown into this position where she is isolated from everyone, not attacking, but being the healer because she's one of
can't
the
be
only
spared.
ones.
She's one of the only ones that can do it.
Yeah.
It's Madame Pomfrey, who's like a school nurse.
Yeah.
And Hermione.
And
healing everyone, plus
there are
a couple
some
other people that they've tried to train.
Sure.
Some field medics, I should say,
medics is what they call them.
She is like indispensable.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, of course, she agrees and says, fine, I will pledge myself to Draco Malfoy. I will do this because we need to do something. My friends are dying. We're losing. And so she, of course, goes to Waterstones, gets a bunch of books about spying.
Right.
Does her
If you don't know,
research.
Waterstones is like Barnes & Noble in England.
In England.
It's a lovely store, and I love it very much, and I miss it very much.
Yeah. And so we also get a flashback, which is very important. I know we have to move fast, but she remembers Colin Creevey, who was the first person to die under her care.
Right.
And essentially he was hit with a flaying curse.
Ooh.
So he comes in while his skin is literally being flayed from him,
Right.
and she's frantically trying to save him for hours and hours and hours until he is a skeleton. And she thinks about this often as like the reason she is the way she is.
Right.
She's seen the absolute worst of it. She couldn't save this person. And Colin Creevey, for anybody who doesn't remember, is like the cute kid with the camera.
Yeah.
In book 2.
Like, yeah. So he gets flayed to death in front of her while she's trying to
bad.
save him.
God.
And she boxes that memory up and puts it away because we learn that Hermione is a natural occlument.
Yep. She's good at compartmentalizing what she does.
Great.
And so
Makes you a useful double agent.
yeah,
Yes.
right, exactly. So they have her and Draco have their first meeting at this safe house that he has set up, and he's very cold and mean, and he says, I'm not going to make you make an unbreakable vow or anything. I believe like your Gryffindor
Yeah.
spirit
Your
will
pride,
just make
yeah.
you stick to this.
You're too loyal for your own good.
Yeah.
And he goes, but maybe you can like give me something in return, not thinking anything of it.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm going to fuck with him. And she kisses him.
Oh.
And she gives him the sweetest kiss that she can muster. And it fucks up his head.
Yeah.
And he's clearly very startled and is like, what are you doing? And he like jerks away from her and then immediately shoves into her mind
Sure, yeah.
and is like, and then pulls out and is like, your defenses are shit. I'm going to teach you because if you get compromised, I'm fucked.
Right.
So we're also going to, these rendezvous are also going to be me teaching you how to defend yourself.
Hardcore occlumency lessons.
Yeah.
Occlumency. And he gives her a ring and he has a matching one. He's like, this is how we'll know to call for each other. But otherwise we have a standing appointment every Tuesday
Yeah.
where we will meet here and exchange information,
Right.
essentially. Do you want to
The next time they meet, the next week, he surprises her and like they both get there and he immediately pushes her up against a wall and starts making out with her.
Oh.
And while she's like, what? And she's so caught off guard because while he's doing that, he goes right into her mind.
Yeah.
And like, which I was like, that's hot. And
very hot.
Haha, your
She-
defenses are lowered.
Yep,
Yes.
yep, exactly.
So they start kind of doing more occlumency lessons. She asks for a specific dark arts book because she's like, if you could actually get your hands on this, I have no way to find this. He's like, I'll see what I can do. We kind of learn more about life. That's the radiator. We learn more about her life at this time. And while she's doing that, her excuse like from the hospital to leave is to go foraging for potions because she's also a potion mistress.
Right, yeah.
She is the one that's making
Yeah.
the dreamless sleep potion, the calming anxiety potion, like all the shit. So
Oh, and it's important to note, obviously, this is a top secret mission, so nobody else in the order knows what she's doing.
except for Moody, McGonagall, and Kingsley.
Kingsley and Snape. Yeah.
So four other
Right.
people know.
And so her excuse of why she disappears every Tuesday is I'm going foraging for ingredients.
Yeah.
Which she does. She also goes foraging. And this one
Oh,
time...
she goes foraging.
She,
alright.
yeah,
She
and
sure does.
she goes, she's picking up some shit, and she almost runs into a werewolf. And she apparates straight to Malfoy's safe house, and he's mad because she goes out there alone, and she doesn't have any self-defense training, really. It's been 3 years she's been in the hospital. She has not kept up with, like, defensive spells. She's really shit at it.
They're not drilling her because she's she's doing other things, but she's very undertrained. Her stamina is shit.
Yeah.
Sure.
And he's also pissed because she apparates to get away from the werewolf to the safe house, and he has like wards on it, which basically means like
Right.
when someone enters the perimeter, he senses it, and
Mm-hmm.
so he shows up and he's pissed because he's like, "What are you doing here?
This isn't our
Yeah.
time.
We can't just do that. Like, I can't just be called away.
Yeah.
You're gonna fuck my cover."
So she says, I won't come here unless it's necessary or a standing appointment. I'm really sorry.
Right.
She goes back to the place. She starts trying to practice defensive spells. She's really shit at it, but she's trying. The next week comes, and Malfoy comes, and she realizes they're starting to do defensive stuff, and there's blood happening, and she's like, what? And she realizes he just got into a fight with a werewolf and then came over here, and he is not healed.
Like, he's dripping blood.
Yeah.
Like, he's injured. Very, very injured.
After like half an hour, she's like, what is still happening? Why is this still dripping? And she heals him because she's a healer. And
He's like, take off your shirt.
Oh,
Let me
wait.
see what you're doing.
Level wounded soldier.
and she realizes that Draco's hot.
She
Yeah.
realizes that he has abs, even though they are very bruised.
Sure,
he has
yeah.
like internal bleeding.
Yeah.
Because he literally fist fights a werewolf.
Yeah.
He shows up and is like, yeah, I'm injured because I had to fight this werewolf for dominance.
He couldn't bite me, but he got in some good punches.
He got in some good punches. And she also, though, it's key, she's trying to ingratiate herself to him too.
Yeah.
Because she essentially is like, he needs to be under my power, essentially, so he doesn't turn.
She's got to Matahari this shit.
Yeah.
Right.
And so she's like massaging in this like bruised pace. She's like, this may hurt a little bit, and is like really playing it up.
She's laying it on
Yeah.
thick.
And he's
Yes.
like, Jesus.
And he says, she like presses on a bruise, and he says, I knew you were a sadistic bitch. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, they're building like a little bit of a rapport.
Yeah.
But then the next, she's like, oh, great, this was like a breakthrough. Cool. The next time, like their next meeting, he is in a horrible mood, and like they're doing like dueling training, and he like zaps the fuck out of her hands and has just reverted back to being a cold son of a bitch.
She does find out, though, he brings her valuable information that Voldemort will be gone for a week, like probably out of the country.
Sure.
And she gives that to the Order, and they do a big hit on a cursed development center. And it's like a big win for the Resistance. They save a bunch of people, and she's gone for practically a month working on all the people they saved from this cursed development place.
Because it's basically a giant facility where they were experimenting on prisoners to
Sure,
develop
yeah.
new horrible things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then she alone gets the people who were being experimented on, and the Order's like, save all these people.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Fine.
And she and like Malfoy kind of knows, so she can't go. She's working, and she doesn't feel the ring. Like the ring hasn't communicated anything to her. So after a month, she goes back, and she sees Malfoy.
And they both see each other and remark at how shit both of them look.
Yeah.
Because she hasn't slept. He looks like shit too.
Yeah.
And we find out that Malfoy has runes carved into his back with dark magic.
Yee.
And it's basically because he is being blamed for letting they don't know that he gave information
Right.
away, but he was in charge of the security, and somehow the Order got in. So it is a way to punish him, essentially, for not doing what Voldemort wanted.
So every night she sees him now to try and reverse the effects of it, because she's like, I gotta heal you. I gotta help
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And she is like drawing out the dark magic. She's like trying to keep it together. She's doing this whole thing. And she stuns him while she's doing it because it's so painful.
Right.
And after like the third or fourth night, she's like, it's barely getting better. Like, it's going really slow. And she's made a few mentions to this locket she has, that because while the war started, she started going around the continent. So she did France, she did Belgium, she did the Netherlands. She ended up going to Egypt for a minute, Albania, to learn all these healing things. And while she was in Egypt, she got a locket.
I'm trying to pull up the art for Will of the runes, because it's really cool.
And so she kind of fingers the locket. We don't really understand what it is. She breaks it. There's a white stone inside of it. She brings Malfoy forward while he's stunned and kind of levitates this white stone and puts it into his heart. And that's kind of all we know. We're like, oh, that sounds fun. And and it's to heal things. And she does not tell him that she does this, though. And so she goes back to like doing this every night and taking out the dark magic and stuff.
And all this should be to say that Malfoy is initially very suspicious of her and does not want. He's like, I don't need you to heal me.
Yeah.
And she insists.
Sure.
She's like, I can't keep like seeing you in pain like this. This is fucking with you. And it's kind of known that if dark magic and that kind of thing seeps into your bones, it has almost like a decaying effect.
Sure,
like it's
yeah.
you can't sustain it. Oh yeah, here. That's the art that's in the thing.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's some good art.
It's some good art,
really cool.
right?
Great
It's some
art.
cool
Yeah.
art.
During this time, they talk more and stuff. She learns that he receives a manticore as a gift, which is a big creature. She's like, hey, you could use that venom, manticore venom, in weapons, and that could be like a thing, just in case. And so that's just like a thing. He gets a little better. He's back to training her with hexes. Sorry, I'm reading my notes. He's back to training her with hexes. I am annoyed with Hermione. She's too timid. That's what I wrote. And I texted Jessica at this point because I was like, this is not the Hermione I know. I'm very annoyed with her. Why is she so shy? Beep boop bop.
And I said, she's been in a war.
I said that's no excuse.
A long time, and she's very traumatized and very jaded. And she's also been kind of essentially sold to Draco Malfoy and agreed to it in the flashback as well.
To try and win this.
To try to win this war. Like, she's given up everything that she is, essentially, to try to win this.
After one night, she goes to a creek that's right by the safe house and decides to get drunk. She buys like a bottle of port.
Well, and the reason for that is because they're dueling and they're practicing, and she's like, you're injured, to Malfoy. She's like, you're injured. I'm not going to try to injure you more. And he's trying to goad her, and he says, well, you know, I was there when the Creevy boys were killed. Ooh. And he tells her, he like describes it to her. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, the younger brother and Colin were getting away, and then the younger brother fell and broke his ankle, and I hit him in the back with a killing curse, and Colin could have gotten away, but he turned back and tried to drag his brother's dead body with him. And that's what sentimentality gets you. And that fucks her up. And so she's like, I'm gonna get drunk at a creek.
Sure. Yeah.
So while this is happening, we are also hearing stuff from, like, she still shares a room with Ginny. So we hear some stuff like, you know, back at the, I think it's Grimmauld Place where they all live. Yeah. And we learn that Ginny was attacked by Lucius Malfoy during a battle, and she is left with like a terrible scar on her face. And she fixes it, and she's able to, but it was with it was a acid curse, which means it was going to like go into her brain. Ron was able to cut out the curse, but with the knife, it was
goblin.
There was goblin
forged blade.
Thank you. And because of that, it imbues with the magic that is from the curse. Mm-hmm. So now this knife has the acid curse in it.
Knife.
Yeah, it's an acid knife.
Yeah, acid knife.
And she goes to the order. She's like, "Hey, we should try and use this." And they're like, "No."
Yeah.
That's
so
dark.
Harry gets pissed. Harry is the worst.
They all get pissed
in this, but Harry specifically gets pissed because he's like, "You didn't need to bring that up so soon. You didn't need to use Ginny's injury again, like to further your want for us to use darker spells." And Hermione's like, "No, I'm just saying we have this knife now.
Yeah,
I'm just saying now, like, this is in our arsenal.
This could be good." And so she's just feeling more and more isolated basically throughout this. And so she's drunk in a creek, and she falls, and she just hears, "Fuck are you doing, Granger?" And Malfoy is there, and he tries to get her up, and she says, "You and Voldemort ruined my life." And there's a taboo on the name Voldemort, as we know. And so he's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" So he gets them into the safe house.
Right.
And basically then it's just...
she sobers up, and he talks to her.
And she's like, "Why are you so focused?" And he like is still taunting her, and she's drunk enough to be like, "Why are you doing this?"
Yeah.
Like, why are you trying to make me hate you? You're clearly using this as a defense mechanism. Fuck you. I'm not going to hate you. And he asks her, like, why she's so fucked up, and she explains to him what we talked about in the beginning, is about why Colin specifically is such a big deal to her. And he starts to get an understanding of why she is so fucked up, and, like, what her position in the war is and how unfair it is.
They decide on a day to close up his wounds finally on his back.
Yeah.
And so they do that. She brings really cheap Muggle tequila. She's like, "You're going to want to get drunk." And he's like, "Whatever." And while it's happening...
she's like, "I can't knock you out because we need to test the elasticity of your back.
Right.
So I can't stun you. But you're going to want to get drunk."
So he drinks a whole bottle of fire whiskey while she's doing it. It's really painful. Then afterwards, she's like...
And he's shirtless. He doesn't have a shirt.
Yeah,
that's important.
Yes.
He doesn't have a shirt.
And so they're... afterwards, she's like, "Well, we got to wait and see if anything happens. So whatever." And he's like, "Why don't you drink with me?" And she's like, "Okay."
Well, no, she tries to leave, and he goes, "Well, why don't you stay?" He says, "I'll even call you Hermione if you hang out."
Yeah, instead of Granger.
Yeah, and she's like, he's still shirtless, and he like conjures a couch for them to sit on.
She's like, "Cool, we actually need to test the mobility of your back.
Yeah,
let's test the range of motion."
So for no reason, for reasons.
Right.
They both get drunk, and they start talking more and more. They're getting closer and closer, and then they kiss.
Yeah,
and then they start making out.
Yeah.
To number one, which I call fucking finally.
Yeah.
Where they make out hardcore on this couch. And then they both kind of like, their brains kind of kick back on. They both freeze up. They stop. And they're like, oh, we're just so tired. So then they end up just passing out on this couch together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
And,
look, who hasn't been there after a whole bottle of tequila
Absolutely.
where you're like, oh yeah, this is happening. Then
Yes.
you're like, nope, sleep time.
They're like snogging, which is, you know,
Yeah,
British
right.
for making out. And she starts crying. And he goes,
Mm-hmm.
why are you crying? And she goes, I'm snogging you, but you don't really think I'm attractive. And he's like, he stares at the ceiling for an entire minute, is the
Yeah,
quote.
yeah.
And then he says, why do you think I was snogging you then?
Like,
And she goes, because I'm here and you don't really think I'm hot. And he's like, "Ugh, so stupid. And
Yeah.
then they fall asleep soon after.
She's also established that she's like a weepy drunk. So
Sure,
she's
yeah.
talkative and weepy.
got it.
But
got
I
it.
just love the like visual of like, you don't really like me.
Just
okay.
stare.
Yeah.
Gears turning.
Got it. Yeah.
Back to her other duties. Kingsley is like, hey, I need your help with something. He brings her to a cave. We realize when unbeknownst to Harry, some of the order is a lot more hardcore and they will
Yeah.
capture people and kind of torture them for information.
Sure,
and
yeah.
Hermione is kind of on hand to be like, no, wake up, you know.
Right.
And we learned that Fleur's sister Gabrielle uses her Vila powers to kind of attract these men, and then she kind of like brutalizes them.
Classic honey pie.
Yeah.
It is a classic honeypot.
It is.
Yeah.
And she patches up Graham Montague before he gets tortured again. Good way.
She's fixing him, and the whole time he's like, I'm going to fucking find you.
Yeah.
I'm going to kill
He's
you.
obsessed with Hermione as she's fixing him.
Got it.
He's like, you'll never get away. I will find you. Fuck you.
Yeah.
So that's just
Don't know if
something
you...
she-
And then-
yeah.
we don't know.
And then 3 years later,
Yeah.
got
It's
it.
another day, and Hermione's foraging, and she is attacked by a vampire.
Oh, and it's important to say that
I was
after they no well in the in between, like during the time that she's like heals Montague and stuff,
Right.
she was really excited to see Draco again after they made out hardcore.
Yeah.
But she keeps showing up for their meetings, and there's just a scroll there with his information. He's not showing up.
Yeah.
So through all of August and a lot of September, she does not see him. And then
So she is trying to get, because there are now big anti-apparition areas in the country, and so she knows that she's in one. She has like her silver foraging knife with her. She sees a vampire. She's running to get to like the anti-apparition boundary. It attacks her. She is able to like stab it in the neck with this silver thing. All this blood gets on her, and she gets bit, but you know, she kills it, and she immediately apparates to Malfoy's house, where she's like, and he's like, oh fuck, what do you do? So she's talking him through how to heal her, and she apparates to Malfoy's house, where he helps her get a blood replenishing potion. And
but then he kind of takes a step back too. Like he doesn't help her a lot.
Yeah, he
like,
just kinda-
he's kind of watching her
Yeah.
heal herself, and he's just very like stone faced and doesn't know what to do.
And the next day, Malfoy is back to training her and says that she really needs to learn how to dance because the fluidity of motion will help with the movement in hexing. So she's not moving a lot, which is why she was...
You gotta hex with your hips.
Yeah, she was out of breath running from this vampire.
And the line,
she needs to be able to
the
jump
line
around.
specifically to start the chapter is Malfoy shows up visibly annoyed carrying a gramophone.
So they start learning to... She starts learning to dance because this is also how he learned from Bellatrix, who is the one who like taught him a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. And yeah, throughout this, we've gotten various fucked up anecdotes of him. Like, yeah, she used to, cast the torture curse on me and then have me try to, like, save my mind. And,
Yeah.
like, that's how I learned.
Yeah.
So you, comparatively, are in a good shape.
I'm giving it to you easy.
Yeah, exactly.
As this is going on, one day he's hurt. I'm just going over this one quickly. She stuns him and fixes him kind of without like asking him. And once she renovates him, which is like bringing him back to whatever, he just lashes out completely and like leaves, and they get into another tiff.
They get into a tiff.
Yeah, time passes. They
Because
exchange
they care about each other.
they care about each other.
They have a loveless
And-
quarrel.
Yeah.
And Christmas comes. Hermione makes these emergency healing bag kits for all of her friends because she's not always there with them.
Right.
She gives them, she shrinks them all down. She gives one to Harry and Ron and Ginny, blah blah blah. She ends up giving one to Draco and kind of extends it, gives him a few more potions and things.
Yeah.
And he is like, all right, I got you something too. And he gives her goblin silver knives with manticore venom in them.
Oh, the thing that she was talking about.
And she's like, "What happened to your manticore?" He's like, "He passed away, I guess, but I got some venom out of him before he passed."
Oh no, how did that happen?
And she's just thinking about how fucking expensive
Right.
all of this is.
She's like, "This could feed people for months."
Sure.
But this is badass.
Yeah.
Also, like, the order's like, no, we can't do basically the same thing. He's like, hey, that was a pretty good suggestion. Here you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's dark. Can't do it.
Yeah.
Well, and you're also learning, like, throughout this that the Order has no money. They were essentially declared terrorists because Voldemort won.
Right.
And so she's looking at this and she's like, I can't even afford to buy ingredients. I have to forage for them. And now I'm holding a fortune in my hands that you have just given to
Christmas is happening. She goes to Shell Cottage to be with the Weasleys. We've learned Arthur has been addled in the brain by Lucius Malfoy. He is now like at a toddler level stage. And Molly just takes care of him full time. George is still there. Ron is still there. Bill is still there.
Bill is still there.
And he's like fucked up even more. He's like a curse breaker, I think.
And Hermione kind of realizes like that because she's healing somebody and she's like, the person says, you seem really like down. Are you okay? And Hermione's like, well, yeah, I'm down. What do you mean? And the person says, but we're winning. We're winning the war. And Hermione realizes that nobody else knows why the war has turned. They don't know that it's her and Draco doing it. They just think that the light is now winning.
Yeah.
It's a good thing we didn't listen to you and start using those dark curses.
Yeah.
Because our morality is winning.
Exactly.
Divine providence.
She realizes that is exactly what's happening. And so it is turning everyone against her even more.
Right.
Because they're like, see,
they don't know that she's...
we knew that this would happen. And she's like, no, this is all fucking me, but I can't tell you.
And this is what she gets into a big fight with Harry about at Christmas. Harry and Ron are both like, you're being a bitch. And she's like, fuck you, and leaves. Ginny kind of runs after her.
But before that, they do take a picture together on the couch.
They take one picture together, and she has like a forced smile.
Yeah.
And Ginny runs after her. She's like, why are you always starting a fight? And she's like, are you kidding me? And then they're just like, they're all kind of in a fight. So they leave.
Yeah.
She starts, she goes back, she talks to Severus, which is kind of her mentor because she is now a potion mistress, and Severus has taught her all of this stuff.
In this AU, is Severus also a double agent?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Severus talks to her and is like, listen, you have one more month to figure out stuff from Malfoy. And if we can't get anything else from him, really, Kingsley and Moody we're going to take him out, or they're going to expose him, really, is what it is. And we'll give you
the specific thing is she has a month to prove her control over Malfoy. Yeah, essentially.
And they're like,
prove that he's loyal, prove that he won't betray us.
Yes,
right.
Or he's a loose thread, and we're gonna just go ahead and expose it.
Yeah,
exactly.
And they're like, just so you know, we'll give you like an hour. We'll give him an hour to like run we'll let you know when it's happening. And she doesn't want that to happen. Yeah. So.
And she actually is so freaked out by that she's sobbing and she goes to the shack and he like Malfoy's house and he shows up and he's like, hey, what's wrong? And she's like, I can't tell you. And she basically just says like, don't die, Draco. And then they leave. She just says, please don't die. And then they part ways.
What's wrong? I can't tell you, but please don't die.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye.
And so the next week they're back to training again.
They start hand-to-hand combat training.
They start combat training. They get into another fight of just everything. And then passions are running high. And then they're so close and they kiss. Which leads to number 2, which I call it happened in the blink of an eye because they finally fuck.
And Malfoy's quick.
Right in the middle of this safe house shack on the floor.
Yeah.
He takes her virginity
On the floor.
On the floor because there's no furniture or anything. It is a room.
There's no table.
Sure.
Well, there's a table, but it's somewhere else.
And he like doesn't know until he sees the blood afterwards that he took her virginity, and he says, "Oh, like if I had known, I would have been more gentle." And she says, "I didn't really want you to be."
Gentle.
Yeah.
So afterwards, they're chatting.
It's hot. It's hot.
It is hot. And
hot.
she finally tells him what the Order is planning to do. She's like, I can't keep this in anymore. Like, I don't want you to die. He asks, what if I die? And she's like, I don't know. I didn't really plan on after a war.
Yeah. And
I don't have any plans.
Yeah, they basically, like, after they fuck, there's an entire chapter of you finally get his motivations and everything.
I mean, that pillow talk.
Yeah.
That's what it's for.
On the floor. And he basically reveals, like, that he kind of just threw her name out there when he was making the deal with the Order to say, like, to give them a reason that they would accept. But really the reason he's doing this is to avenge his mom. Because he realized when she died that, like, he did not want to be working for Voldemort anymore. But he needed to wait for enough time to pass that it wouldn't be suspicious that he needed to basically build himself up in the ranks in order to have something useful to trade.
Right.
So we learned that about it.
So she's like, maybe I'll just be assigned to another person if you die. Like, maybe I'll be another liaison.
Yeah.
And he just gets possessive.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh no. And it's been mentioned before. I think it was Snape that was like, just so you know, Malfoys are kind of like dragons.
Yeah.
Like they get something, they want something, they want to keep it.
They're hoarders.
They're hoarders.
Yeah.
So she sees how possessive he gets, and he goes, okay, I'll do an unbreakable vow. And she's like, huh? And he goes, yeah, Moody will be the bonder. Bring him over.
Is that what it'll take to prove basically your power over me? And an important plot point that we also learned during Pillow Talk is we learned that basically he killed Dumbledore, and basically everything at the beginning of his service was because Lucius failed. He was in prison. Voldemort showed up to Malfoy Manor and imprisoned his mom in a cage in the foyer and tortured her for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah.
And it was Draco trying to get her out and trying to run that, and ultimately he failed to do that. But that was like his turning point. So like that is his key.
Yeah.
That's
his motivation.
Story.
That is his origin story. And also his mom told him, don't tell your father about this, because your father will be so angry and so upset that he will do something that will get both of you killed if he knows what happened to me. And so Lucius doesn't know anything. Draco has been carrying this secret, and now Hermione knows.
And Moody comes, he acts as a bonder for them, and it's like, you will help the Order to your best abilities, and da-da-da, and they make an unbreakable vow, Hermione and Draco.
Got it.
Hermione goes home one day and goes into her room and sees Ginny crouching, sobbing, and we realize Ginny is pregnant by Harry, and she does not want to tell anyone, and she doesn't want to tell Harry because she doesn't want to like add to his stress level.
Right.
And she asks for Hermione to help her and to lie to everyone. Hermione's like, I have to tell Kingsley, but let's get you to a safe house and we'll come up with a thing. She says that she has spattergoit, and
Which is this super contagious thing. And the main thing is Ginny before this was like a field agent, and she's like, I can't go into the field anymore. I'm pregnant, but I also don't want anybody to know.
Right.
So they take her off the board essentially with this, but Hermione like curses her, so she has like these boils all over her face.
Sure, yeah.
And
so she looks diseased.
Yeah. So she moves to a safe house, and everyone's just like, yep, she's gone now, so she's fine, but she's just healing. No one can see her. While this is happening, Harry and Ron are like, "Wah!" They do an attack on Hogwarts to try and get in because that's where Voldemort is holed up.
Yep.
And Ron gets captured in the attack. Now Harry has no one because he's been going on things with Ron and Ginny, and he's like,
Harry's freaking out.
In
the way only Harry Potter can.
Right, of course.
Stubborn, annoying.
Yes.
For me at least.
Main
Very
character.
annoying. Main
So-
character energy in a fic where he is not the main character.
yes. He has MCE.
Yeah.
He comes to Hermione and he's like, hey, can you come with me for a rescue mission? And she's like, what? And so he apparates her to this safe house, and it's like George, Bill, and Tonks,
Lupin.
and Lupin, and they're going to go save Ron. And she has 15 minutes. She's like, okay, let me go get my bag because I need my healing bag.
They have these blueprints. They're like, we have this information. We think we know where he is. It's this safe house. She looks at the blueprints, immediately is like, these aren't real. This is a trap. I know the
It's a trap.
She's like, I know the information that Draco usually gives me. This is way more detailed than that. This is definitely a trap, but I can't blow my cover and tell them that I know this. So I'm just going to try to help them because they're going to go whether I'm with them or not.
Right.
And they can't fucking heal themselves because no one thought of that except for me.
Sure, yeah.
So she can't get to Kingsley. She can't get to Moody to tell them what's happening. So she immediately goes to Draco's safe house. He's not there. She writes a note being like, this is what's happening. If you can do anything, let me know.
Yeah.
And grabs her
Leaves it.
bag and goes back. They go on this mission. They're in this house. They get to Ron, but before they get out,
Guess what? It's a trap.
they are immediately surrounded by Death Eaters. They are running to the anti-apparition place, but all these Death Eaters come. Renault Lestrange ends up stabbing Hermione in the chest. She gets her lung punctured. She is separated from Ron.
She gets hit with an acid curse on her wrist as well. It's like the 5 of them, and then 100 Death Eaters show up and surround them and start coming at them.
Or like 50. It's it's a shit ton.
It's described as like she's thinking it's amazing that we're all like
that we're all still alive.
The
right now.
fact that we're all good enough to still be alive is insane.
Yeah.
So this is happening. She's getting stabbed. She's like, what's happening? She looks up. There's somebody there in a mask.
Just standing still at the edge of the clearing that they're in.
And like stuns. Oh, I should say though, as they were running, she has been cutting. She's been doing cutting curses on everyone's Achilles heel. So she killed.
She pulls out dark shit right away.
Yeah, she killed maybe 10 to 15
her training,
Death Eaters.
Kicks in, and this is her badass moment.
So after she's killed like 10 to 15 people, she is like about to die. She sees this man in a mask and black robes. It's a Death Eater clearly, but like immediately kills Lestrange that's over her, and he starts walking towards her, and he's killing people left and right,
walking very slowly.
He gets to Hermione. He grabs her.
He casts a spell that sucks people into the earth, and then casts another spell to null it, so they're just in the ground, and she can hear them screaming.
He gets Hermione. He grabs her.
Cool.
He has a thing. He like some sort of like item. He throws it, like has a protection charm over them, and it sucks like the air out of everyone around them. Everyone goes down
because they're choking for air.
Sure.
Almost kills everyone. Hermione's like, you can't kill my friends. This guy goes. And
she's freaking out. She's like, what are you doing? You're gonna kill him. You're gonna kill him.
Yeah.
And she already at this point is
knows
this is Draco.
Yeah.
This is definitely
sure.
Draco.
Yeah.
And she's like, this is the most impressive thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
This is incredibly powerful.
Badass battle magic.
Yeah.
And he goes and he saves all the order members by like stunning them and giving them their air back. But every other Death Eater there dies. He's killed everyone.
He kills everybody.
He immediately apparates him and Hermione back to his house. He is healing her and screaming at her.
He's like, why the fuck would you do this?
You idiot.
You knew it was a trap.
You could tell. I know
and she
you
goes,
could.
he goes that you matter. Like, I know that you think that no one else thinks you matter, but you matter, and that I don't want you to die. And she immediately kisses him, and there is passion. And I called this one number 3, the kiss that made Emily swoon.
Can I read the exact quote, please?
Yes, you can.
You are not replaceable. You are allowed to be important to people. I took that vow to keep you safe. And then she kisses him. I texted Jessica at this point. I was like, this is the most... I'm very turned on. I was just like, he killed and then I was like, there's text between us. I was like, maybe we should read this. Okay, so I have 5:29 p.m. on, I think, a Saturday. OMG, Jess, because she was so excited she couldn't spell OMG the second time. Oh, he just killed all the people for her. It's moments like this where I know I do need to go back to therapy because I found it very attractive. And I said, that's because it is one of the hottest things that has ever happened. And it deserves its own sex title. I hope you give it one. It's so good. And she goes, oh, Jess, I'm so invested in this.
I was I just was like the one that made Emily swoon. It was the best one.
So yeah, they do it.
They do it. She gets patched up,
and
she's
it's very like, I don't know if this is the last time. I need to memorize everything about you type sex.
Yeah. Okay. Hot.
Yep.
She goes back to Tonks' parents' house, which was the meetup point. She starts patching everyone up. Tonks suspects that someone is training her because she was like, you were like badass out there.
You had some field training and we haven't been giving you that.
Yeah.
Right.
And she's worried about her though.
Yeah.
Because she's like, you realize you killed 10 people.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah. And she's like, okay, I need you to talk to someone later.
Yeah.
Hermione wakes up in the middle of the night realizing that she has killed people, and she goes into shock.
She just feels super drained and cold and restless, and so without even thinking about it, she goes to the shack.
House,
yeah,
but does not go in because she said, I can't just go there just to go there now. Like, I have to have a reason. So she doesn't like cross the boundary, but she kind of just like standing there, and then she kind of falls.
She faints.
And she thinks she's hallucinating Malfoy because she sees him walking towards her in Muggle jeans and an Oxford sweatshirt.
Oh.
A gray Oxford hoodie.
And he just picks her up and apparates her to a really fancy Muggle hotel.
Okay, you listeners, you can't see the eyebrow that I just raised in that moment, but
And she's like,
all right.
she's like, I'm clearly hallucinating.
She thinks this is all a dream.
Right, because pureblood Malfoy and Muggle clothes
Yeah.
at a Muggle hotel. What?
They chat. She says that he's lovely and she wants to love someone, but it can't be him because she doesn't want to use him. She doesn't want to use him that way. She just needs someone to be physical with.
And he says, then use me.
Then use me. And this leads to number 4, which I call...
Then use me because it's one of the hottest things.
Which I call fancy night in a fancy hotel.
She's like, I can't do this to you. I'm using you, and we're using each other for our thing.
Yeah.
And he goes, then use me.
And it's like, and it's nice, and it's
yeah.
like a loving kind of thing. And the quote that I wrote down actually is, he said, "This is how I wanted it to be with you," and it was very wonderful. So
Yeah.
this is
Do
when I
you,
start writing chapters.
Hermione, do you know DNA magic? Because I need you in my genes.
Ooh, yeah, that was a good one. Hermione stays in bed for a full day, sleeping and sexing.
Yeah, that's right.
said-
You know that's right.
Yup.
My notes are really fun for me to read, so I said, "Oh my god, okay, so now we know that she used the stone of Isis. Remember that white stone that she put in his chest?
in his heart.
And that he is now immune to the effects of using dark magic. Because
Yeah.
when you use dark magic, it
like
just
tears at your
it's
soul
degrading.
a little bit.
So now he
Yeah.
can do it and just go for it.
Oh,
And
good
she
for
does
him.
she does wake up the next day and go, oh, so I wasn't hallucinating. We are in fact in a Muggle hotel.
Right.
And he reveals that, this is his way of escaping and trying to be safe. He basically
Right.
has endless reservations at Muggle hotels that he randomly stays in at night when he's not actively
Right.
on mission.
It's like, I'm incognito.
Yeah, basically. And he's like, yeah, and the great thing about hotels is they have concierge. So anything about the Muggle world I don't understand, they don't really question my
Right.
questions.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And room service.
And room
fun.
service.
That's great. Yeah, absolutely.
She goes back. She learns that when they rescued Ron, he had a shackle on him and they could not remove it. We learned that has a tag in it. And so he has not come back to Grimmauld Place. He has stayed at that safe house because they got to get it off of him.
Yeah, and it's very eerily at it is an early prototype
Yeah, it's
of
a
the Manacled.
precursor to, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Kingsley
They're
is...
just cracking this cursed tech over at Snape's.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
They learn more about the shackle. Hermione is not allowed to forage anymore, and she's bummed. Kingsley and Hermione talk. They kind of get into a fight, and Hermione's like, I know I'm too important, so I can't forage. Like, I get that I'm just here to be at your service. And Kingsley's like, just so you know, like, I'd be really sad if you died. Like, Kingsley's
that's
like, you're
nice.
more than just a healer to me. Like,
Good.
you are someone I really care about. And
I'm glad that, like, I get it's an AU and things are a little bit different. I'm glad that all the, like, heroes of the story are not just pieces of shit to Hermione all the time.
This is like the versions of those people if they had been literally fighting in a war for like 4 years.
Yeah.
And they were experiencing that for themselves.
Absolutely.
But the thing that starts happening now more and more is Hermione just starts showing up at the shack and
Yeah.
Draco shows up, immediately starts making out with her against a wall or whatever, and then just
Right.
immediately takes them to whatever hotel room
That's
he's staying
great.
at.
Yeah. Oh,
So that just
amazing.
starts regularly happening.
And the first one of this, like, regularity is, I called that one, a week is too long, because it was a week before they could get their hands on each other.
Yeah.
So they're seeing each other a lot. They're doing it all the time.
And when they like see each
Absolutely.
other for the first time, it's now taking on this significance where they both are like, "Are you all right? Are you all right? What's going on? Are you
Don't
injured?
die."
Are you okay? Please
Yeah.
don't die." And it's taking on this like urgency and this concern for each other.
Listen, if there is a lady out there that just has money to blow on hotel rooms and wants to, like, fly me out all the time, that sounds pretty nice.
Right? Can you
I
imagine?
mean,
they say, at Pillow Talk one night, they talk about running away together, but they know it's never going to happen. Like, but
Yeah.
if they could leave, they would. And they say they want to see each other more. If he taps on the ring that he gave her once, that's just to hang out. If he taps
Sure.
twice, that means there's shit
like,
going down.
Yeah.
There's actual, like, spy information I need to give you.
Exactly. And she also finally tells him about Horcruxes. And
Oh,
explains
okay.
like that part of it to him.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, okay." So now he's filled in on what
You know,
those
now
are.
that you say that, there are a couple objects that I think might be...
That is actually exactly what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where he's
sure, of
like,
course.
"Oh, yeah."
That actually
Voldemort-
really explains why he was so precious about that ring.
Yes. Yep.
We also learned Drakey.
Turns out
Drakey.
when you have secrets and you share them, sometimes shit gets done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Draco,
Communication. We love it.
Draco tells Hermione more about his mom. They study the Manacles a little more. There's a big attack in Surrey, and they start bringing in the injured. The Resistance gets attacked in Surrey, and they're bringing all the injured people into Grimmauld Place in the hospital. At one point, Hermione sees Kingsley apparating people in, sees that he has an acid hex curse like in his
He's
chest.
being eaten away in real time.
And she's like, I gotta heal you. Grabs onto him. As she does that, he apparates back to the scene. And
so she's suddenly in the middle of a battlefield.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And with the battle, she gets hit with an acid curse. At the same time, she also gets a vampire bite. So she immediately apparates back. Pavarti Patil is the field worker that she is training
To be a healer.
Right. It's like, what do I do? And she's like, do this and this and this. And it's a patch job.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pavarti basically says, I can't heal you properly. You need to keep healing people while you have these things.
Yeah.
So she doesn't actually heal her at all.
Right.
Hermione just keeps going while her body is literally eating away at itself.
She keeps working. It keeps getting worse and worse. Creature, the house elf, apparates in and is like, you okay? And she's like, huh? Grabs her, kidnaps her, brings her to Malfoy, where he immediately has this, he removes a floorboard, picks up this huge bag and is like, what the fuck? And starts healing her.
Yeah.
She is suspended. She like passes out. She wakes up. She is suspended. She cannot move.
Yeah.
Her bones, her chest bones are regrowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's where the acid curse hit her.
And then they apparated, which shattered her bones.
Yes.
Hi.
So he's really mad that she's hurt. He was like, you shouldn't have been there. Says he's gonna, and he goes, if something like that ever happens again, I will kill everyone in the order if you get hurt. And I
will personally raise the entire order to the ground. That is not a threat. It is a promise. If you die, I will kill every last one of them, given that the risk of their lives is apparently the only way to make you value your own.
I said in parentheses, so hot.
That's hot.
And she's like, crap, now I got to tell Moody that Draco's kind of a threat now, and Moody's going to kill my boyfriend. Like, ugh, this sucks. He gets called away. He gets Dark Mark summoned, and Topsy, the house elf, watches her as she continues to mend.
Yeah.
They kind of fight, because he's like, don't tell Moody. Like, you don't have to do that. And she's like, I got it, because the order comes first.
He immediately clocks her thought process of like, oh shit, she now is going to turn me in because she is loyal to the order above all else. And she basically says like, yeah, because if your guys win, they're going to eventually get into the Muggle world, and the world, my elementary school classmates will die. Like, I am protecting the world from you, and this is more important than our relationship, essentially.
I said they kind of fight, but they're still like, dang, I like you.
They like fight while he's holding her hand, and like
we learned that after when she was stable, he apparated her to Malfoy Manor, and that's where she is healing. He shows her his library, and Hermione doesn't say it, but she wants to say.
That's where Emily was won completely.
Yet another moment where Emily was won.
The library at Malfoy Manor is a huge plot point in any Draco Hermione
it's so
fanfic.
Important. You can tell how fucking nerdy everyone is because the library has to be there at some point.
I
great.
find it so attractive
to
great. Have a library.
Sure, yeah.
And every time I do picture the library from Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, of course.
Every time.
She wants to say I love you, but doesn't. She goes back to Grimmauld Place. She talks to Moody, and she says...
She chews out Padma or Pavarti.
Pavarti for not diagnosing her correctly.
Yeah.
She says, I almost died. I had to go somewhere else to get healed. She talks they had talked about Horcruxes, her and Draco. She goes to Moody and she goes, we're going to find a Horcrux in the Lestrange vault. And so Draco goes to the vault, finds the Hufflepuff cup.
Yeah.
And Hermione...
And he does it in less than a week.
Sure, yeah, of
Whereas
course.
They're just like, boom.
In the Harry Potter books, it takes months of work. He's like, oh yeah, I know where that is.
They have
Cool.
a blade, right? That's how they do it? The goblin blade?
Yeah,
It's the Manacled venom.
Manacled venom, yeah. Does that. So she's like, I'll do it. I'll destroy it. They set up like a protection thing. She goes, she stabs it. A whole thing happens, like in the movies where like the shit comes on, blah, blah, blah. It's scary. And the cup is destroyed. And immediately Draco is like, never again. Don't ever do that again. And because he was worried about her.
That shit was way too scary.
Too
Yeah.
scary.
All those dark clouds.
Scary.
We learn that Harry is seeing through Voldemort's eyes when he sleeps.
Yeah, we finally get some backstory as to why Harry has been such a shit. And
Yeah.
we realize that, like, when he goes to sleep, he is Voldemort all of a sudden. So he's just seeing through Voldemort's eyes as Voldemort tortures and kills people. And Hermione's like, oh, is that why you didn't want to do dark curses? And he's like, yeah, that's kind of... Here is my trauma. Yeah.
About it. It's cool.
Draco was abroad for a second. He comes back with news that Lucius, the crazy man, is coming back and he won't be as available. They start to fight again. He wants Hermione to leave the war. He's very worried about her. He apparates them to the Savoy and they sleep together and she says that she is his.
Yeah. They love each other.
Yeah.
It's really cute.
Chapter 35. Well, I'm sorry. Flashback 35.
Chapter 60.
Hermione makes a bomb. Hermione has this idea to make a bomb to destroy the wards that are on Hogwarts.
Because basically they reach a point where they're like, something's got to give.
Yeah.
This needs to end. We are weakened. We need to do a Hail Mary to basically try to end the war.
Yeah.
And this is their solution to try to do that. Because they're running out of money. They're running out of
Sure.
manpower. And Voldemort is getting stronger and stronger. And this is kind of, they're like, okay, we
getting
need
desperate, yeah.
We need a last stand. And so Hermione makes a bomb.
So she's working on this for 2 weeks. Her and Draco see each other, and she tells him that this is happening. And she's like, if my side wins, you need to run, and I will find you. And he says, no, I'm not leaving you. And they're like, agree to disagree. So the day comes, the whole battle's about to happen. She is at the hospital preparing, and she's in her potions closet, and Harry comes up to her and is like, I just wanted to say goodbye because I don't know if I'm coming back.
Yeah.
And she's like, huh? And he's just like, I'm really sorry that we haven't been good friends, but I really love you, and I just want you to know that. And she's like, oh, I love you too. And
Yeah.
you know, she's the bomb works. We're like, well, that's great. And they get a Patronus at the hospital of like Seamus Finnegan being like, it worked. And they're
Hermione.
like, great, okay, like let's get ready for some casualties to come in. And she's talking to Madame Pomfrey, and Madame Pomfrey is saying that when Harry was brought in years ago, that she registered in her diagnostic spell that there were 2 magical signatures coming out of Harry, which is not normal.
Right.
And she just kind of throws that out there.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, weird.
She's like, this weird thing happened. Weird. So she was like telling her, like, yeah, if Harry's brought in, just so you know.
This could happen. And Hermione's like,
What?
And Hermione, who has been studying these Horcruxes, realizes she puts all this
Immediately.
together.
Yeah.
She's like, there's a fucking Horcrux in Harry.
Yeah.
She apparates to the
To the
battlefield
At
and
Hogwarts.
and
Yeah.
stop before they all like rush in. She's like, I need to speak to Harry now. They go into a tent, and she's like, she explains what happens.
She does her own diagnosis.
Yeah, she does that, and she kind of like shows him that there's this red schmudge
Yeah.
in him.
If you look at the hologram, you'll see.
You can't see what I'm doing, but I'm just doing
She's holding a stress ball and holding
without the ball.
squeezing it.
I'm jellyfishing.
But also, this was a moment for me as a fan where I was like, yeah. Did no one at any point ever
real.
try to do some kind of spell to like analyze Harry in the many times he was brought into the hospital wing and notice something going on?
You're on parcel tongue. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's not examine this at all.
Wonder how that happened.
Yeah. So there's
Back to class.
there's definitely a moment I was reading, I was like, yeah, that is okay.
Yeah. But he's like, okay, I must be the last one, so I'm going to go. And she's like, no, we have to pull everyone back. Like, we got to figure this out. We got to fix this. You have to come back. He's
Yeah.
like, no. He's going. And
He's like, this is our last stand. This is what we're doing.
And she's, last minute effort goes, Ginny's pregnant. And he's like, don't
You can't
lie.
do this. Ginny's pregnant, yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm not lying. You need to come back with me so you can meet your son. And he goes, if anything happens to me, I need you to promise to take care of Ginny.
Yeah.
And I need you to watch over her.
He's like, this is more important. But and
Yeah.
Hermione's like, Ginny has named him James for your father.
Yeah.
Are you sure? And he's like, nope, this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
And Hermione promises. And she
Okay.
goes and she watches him die. And she tries to run.
Because Narcissa is dead. And so Narcissa in the books,
is not the one that checked if Harry was alive.
Yeah.
because in the books, it is just her lying
Right, that
that
spares
spares him. But she's not there to lie. Lucius is the one that checks, says, my lord, he's still alive. Voldemort hits him with 30 fucking killing curses and then a
Again, yeah.
necrosis curse
Ugh.
and strings him up to rot on the walls of Hogwarts. And Hermione watches all of this happen.
She tries to run. She gets captured. She wakes up in Malfoy's safe house. Realized Malfoy saw her and immediately got to her and got her out of there.
Yep.
He says the war is over. I say Voldy. That's how I wrote it.
I wrote it
Voldy
at a
has
certain
won.
point. I got sick of typing it out in my notes. So Voldy is all over these notes.
Voldy has won. She says she will leave like she promised, but she can't go without Jenny. She has to get to her safe house.
She tells Draco about Ginny because he
Yeah.
didn't know any of this.
They go to Grimmauld Place, and everything is destroyed. There are bodies everywhere. She finds Pavarti.
Well, and Malfoy kills all the Death Eaters that are there.
yeah.
Got it.
Because he's like, what's status report? And like, while their backs are turned,
Yeah,
he just
he's like-
murders
them.
all of them.
Yeah. Pavarti is slowly dying. Her body is just like disintegrating.
Yep.
And with her last few breaths, she's like, they were all taken to Sussex, which is the new cursed development center. Where they're
Because Ginny has all these, she's ill.
Right.
So she's an ideal test subject.
and then Hermione's like, I don't want you to suffer anymore. She tries to get a potion. Malfoy's like, don't worry, I got this. And he kills Pavarti in a mercy killing.
Yeah, right.
She goes around, she finds all the stuff that wasn't ruined and like packs it away, and they go back to the safe house.
And Hermione is like, this was my fault. I'm the one that made Ginny look like she was diseased. Like,
Yeah.
I'm one of the reasons that she was taken. She feels a whole lot of guilt about that.
So she learns all this. They go back to the safe house. She goes, I will leave forever if you get Jenny. Malfoy goes, okay. Within an hour, comes back. Ginny is stunned, so she's just frozen in terror. And he goes, okay, now you guys are gonna go, and just go, and I'll see you later. And she's like, no, we're all going. He goes, Hermione, my cover was blown. Like, getting that out, everyone knows that I'm a traitor now, and it's in the logbooks. I logged all that shit in the cursed development place.
damn.
So this is goodbye. And she loses her mind. She starts freaking out. She starts panicking.
She's like, this is not what we agreed. And he's like, no, this is what we agreed. You said you would leave and be safe if I got Ginny for you. And I did that. So now you go and I deal with the consequences of my actions. And she's like, no, absolutely not. And she's hyperventilating.
She wakes up. She says, I need Snape because he needs to know this last, item
information.
about the
Yeah.
Horcruxes. Severus is called. He is told about the last Horcrux. And she goes, okay, give me an hour to talk to Snape while you get Ginny to the first safe house. And he's like, okay. So Draco leaves, and Hermione's like...
and Draco makes Snape do an unbreakable vow with him, promising that Snape won't interfere with Hermione getting out and won't take Hermione anywhere because he doesn't trust Snape.
Sure.
Draco leaves, and Hermione immediately is like, I'm going to start making some bombs. And Snape's like, huh?
Well, and Snape goes, I can't believe he bought that.
Yeah.
Snape immediately knows that Hermione was lying and that she was not intending to go anywhere.
Because she's going to make... So the bomb she made for Hogwarts was stable. She was able to like set kind of a timer for it. These ones are really quick on the fly. She's like, I'm going to have to activate them when they happen, and I'm going to go do it to Sussex to save Draco.
I'm going to
Yeah.
destroy anybody who
Yeah.
saw him and any records.
No evidence.
Yeah.
Burn it to the ground.
Exactly. Burn it to the ground. Snape is like, I'll do it. And she's like, no. If something happens to me, I need you to find the Horcrux. Because if not, like, I have to go with Ginny, and then I can't ever do this again.
Yeah.
So this is how it has to be. So she leaves, but not before leaving a note. And she goes to Sussex, and it's this detailed chapter that I'm gonna gloss a little over.
Yeah.
She goes along the border. She's cutting it with the knife. She's planting these bombs.
Yeah.
All these bombs go off. She's running. She gets attacked by a vampire and some hags.
Yep.
And I think some werewolves. She fighting
fights
them
them
all
all
off. Graham Montague steps up to the plate, and Montague finds her and catches her.
And takes her to Hogwarts.
She cannot get back to her wand to apparate. He grabs her, takes her. He goes, this is what's going to earn me my dark mark. She wakes up in a cage in Hogwarts and watches as the Weasleys are tortured and killed.
By Lucius.
She watches Ron die. She immediately sits back in the cage and she's like, gotta do this. And she starts occluding. She starts putting
Right.
everything she can away.
She's like, I need to protect Draco. I
Yeah.
need to hide all of this information. And as she's kind of in a trance state doing that is when Umbridge comes
Yep.
up to her cage and
And
is gleeful about, I can get my revenge on her. I know
Right.
where to put her.
She tortures her. Hermione uses occlumency to send all of her bottled up trauma to the forefront of her mind and Draco to the back. And then she gets thrown into a sensory deprivation cell for 16 months.
Wow. And that's where we catch up with the main story.
Here we are.
Chapter 64!
Are the secrets shared enough for you yet?
Yeah,
Will?
well, okay, but like, okay, so she goes through this and obviously represses all her Draco memories, has no idea they had this relationship. But
Yeah.
Draco the whole time in the first part
Yup.
is like aware,
Fully
like
aware.
knows.
Yep.
Knows everything.
And knows that she doesn't know because he's in her head like,
Right. Yeah.
damn.
So, and that's why if we can just
So
have
upset,
a moment
yeah.
of coming back here, that's why when she first shows up to the manor, the first thing he does is enter her brain.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I need to make sure
Right.
that my shit is locked down. Like,
Right.
have you protected us enough?
Right.
And he
Yeah.
finds that she has. But he knows the entire time.
Right, but then also this woman that he loves doesn't remember their relationship at
Yeah.
all, and he
Is scared of him.
and the government is making him like
Yep.
bed her.
Yep.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, okay.
This is
Layers.
multifaceted.
And Snape knows everything, so he was like, I'm going to put her with Draco.
Because he
Got it.
couldn't
instead of
take her
with
to
me.
Romania
Sure.
away from Draco because of
Yeah.
the unbreakable vow he made.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
all of the memories come back.
And we do get, like, when she's put into the cell, we get her POV of, like, slowly starting to forget.
Sure,
And
yeah.
it's like, so it's like in Lord of the Rings when they're talking about Gollum, where it's
Yeah,
like
right.
time passes and
Yeah.
he forgets the taste of whatever.
And the
taste of
creature
water.
Yeah.
known as Smeagol fell out of existence.
yes.
Yes.
She has that moment. And
Right.
yeah, so now we know all of that, and we're back.
I love it.
And she suddenly has recovered all of her backstory.
The memories are coming in kind of at different times.
Right,
It's not
right.
as linear as we just presented.
Did you have other?
Well, it's,
yeah.
just because it's been 3 years.
We've been on a journey.
We've been on a
3
journey.
years later.
Remind me where we are in like current time that she starts remembering this stuff, because Montague shows up, gets disemboweled. Also, like, he remembers her this whole time.
He
too,
remembered her the
like-
whole time. He knows he and that's something he keeps saying that she doesn't understand. Is he's like, I was supposed to get you, but then the Dark Lord gave you to Draco.
As
but
a-
you're
Yeah.
mine.
as
You're
a slave.
You're supposed
Right.
to be mine because I'm the one that found you, and she doesn't know what he's talking about.
Remember,
Got
she
it.
was pregnant. She was bedridden. She could not eat.
She's pregnant?
Yeah.
I think I missed that.
No, you were there for it. She was.
I mean, I know I was here for it.
That was what ultimately unlocked her memories. Is she got pregnant and then she was starting to like remember things.
Got it.
And then
got
she just fell one day because it all rushed back.
Gotcha.
And Draco was kind of at her side the whole time, like
Right.
making sure she was okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we're back to plotline A, and so basically she like wakes up and is getting like her head hurts. She's like starting to remember things in real
Yeah.
time. The first thing she thinks, though, she sees him, and she's like, he looks older and he's alive, and she's relieved, and she's like, oh my god, Draco's alive, thank God. And then her most recent memories come back, and she remembers him as the High Reeve and him, and so like
She's horrified to kind of put those two
she's
together.
trying to reconcile
Right.
the man that she loves and this other Draco that she was experiencing for the last however long it's been.
Oh, we should also say that we did not say when we were learning of the High Reeve and his very public executions.
Yeah.
A major one that was in a paper was Ginny.
Oh.
So Ginny is dead.
Yeah. Ginny is known
everyone,
to be dead.
Everyone
Got
is
it.
dead. Everyone she knows is dead, pretty much.
And she has that too of like she's remembering
Right.
all of her past, and now she's like, oh shit, and now I'm here and everyone is dead.
Right. And the last time I
remember
saw
them.
you was, hey, go take care of Ginny, make sure she's safe.
Yes.
And you very publicly executed her.
Yes.
So they talk a little bit. It's slow goings because she's still very much on the mend. She learns that Malfoy is the one that killed Umbridge
Oh, with the arrow?
because of his unbreakable vow to help the Order.
Ooh.
And that locket was a Horcrux.
Horcrux.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he destroyed the last.
It was an arrow dipped in Manticore venom.
Love it.
Yep.
And she kind of confronts him about Ginny, and he goes, I saved Ginny.
Yeah, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, that's good. Fake execution. Yeah.
That person was not a Ginny. That was like a ruse.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
it was a patient at Sussex that had red hair and looked close enough, and they bought it basically.
She learns he saved Ginny. She bore a son, and he's 1.5 years old now, named James. And Hermione starts to kind of get better, but she still doesn't know how to amend everything.
Yeah,
Right.
and like they talk about Draco was trying to find her the entire time. He didn't know where she was
Because she still had the ring on.
so he knew that she was alive.
Oh.
But he didn't know where she was because he would try to like get more of a read
Like,
or like
scry for her.
Right.
but she was
And-
in total darkness.
Right. It was. I scried on you, and it was just blank.
And Umbridge didn't file the proper paperwork.
Of course.
So
And
no one knew.
there was no record of her.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And so Hermione learns that like he's been double agenting the fuck out of this and trying
Yeah.
to find her for a really long time.
Oh.
She learns that Severus Snape is going to come back from Romania, and that Malfoy and him have a plan to smuggle her out of the country, but she has to get better because she's not going to be able, she won't survive an apparition while she is like in this state.
Yeah, she's too fragile and she's pregnant.
Okay. Yep. Yeah.
And they don't want her
Sure.
or the baby to die.
Yeah.
She
absolutely.
starts like working out more again.
Yeah.
She's eating. She gets a little better. The memories come back little by little. He takes her to the library, but the ceilings are very high and she can't really deal with it unless he's there.
And the entire time he's being he's like, I understand, I'm gonna give you space, and she's like, no, come here. Like
Yes,
she's
space
like
bad.
Yeah, he's like, I'm sorry. He's fully regretful for what he did, and she's at every turn pulling him to her
Yeah.
and being like, please don't leave. It makes me nervous. I need to know that you're there. I need to know that
Yeah.
you're safe.
Yeah.
So he's like kind of the uncertain one now at this point in their relationship.
She panics and has a seizure. This is like not the first seizure she's had. So he's like, you can't do this again
Yeah.
because you're going to die if you have more seizures. How dare you? They chat in her
Also,
room.
you are pregnant.
Yeah. Also,
Yeah.
you're pregnant with
You're pregnant.
their baby.
And she's very like, as soon as she learns she was pregnant, she's very protective over this kid.
Sure,
like,
yeah.
she is all in on this is a baby, this is my baby, and there's no doubt there. Even
Right.
before she started to recover memories.
Okay, gotcha.
They chat more and more in her room, and she learns that the plan is for him, when she is safe, that he will die. And that will be what destabilizes the Voldy regime, because he is the High Reeve,
Right, yeah,
and he is now known as the High Reeve. It has been known. And
He's basically made himself so essential as Voldemort has gotten weaker and weaker.
Right.
so that if he's out of the picture,
If he's out of the picture, the entire thing will destabilize, and that has been the plan all along.
Okay, sick.
Yeah.
she begs him not to do that, and she's like, let me research how to get your dark mark off, because he can't go anywhere with his dark mark
Right.
while Voldy's still alive. He says, okay, but if by the time Severus comes and there's nothing, you have to go. And if you have any more panic attacks, you have to stop, because you might die from
That always
another
works.
seizure.
Right?
Hey, stop having those panic
Hey,
attacks.
don't do this
okay.
anymore.
She starts researching. He's not super invested because he's kind of resigned to like, no, I'm going to die.
And he's also like, I've been doing research to try to figure out how to remove my mark.
Yeah.
I was not successful. If I try to do it, I will bleed out and die.
Yeah.
He's just very like, yeah, okay, go ahead. But
Right.
I'm resigned to this. And he also at some point says like, hey, I never expected you to keep this pregnancy. Like,
Yeah.
I know how this child was conceived. I can make arrangements if you do not want this. And she basically says, no, I do. Like,
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from, but I am invested in this.
He said, she's like, nope, I love you, you dummy. And he's like, I love you too. And then they kiss.
And then they
Nice.
kiss.
Stroud comes for another month, and turns out, we find out that the baby's a girl.
Oh.
And Stroud's like, what a bummer. And Hermione's like, fuck you.
Stroud is
Damn.
like, yeah, a lot of the surrogates that have girls, the girls just kind of given away to be trained for the repopulation effort, or given
Yeah.
to the new version of Sussex for experimentation. So
Oh.
if you want to, she just very like blandly is like,
Yeah.
so if you want to do that, High Reeve, that is an option for you. And Draco is like, Hermione notices Draco is physically stopping himself
Yeah.
from punching her in the the face.
Or killing her.
Probably more that.
The time is ticking down. The days are going by. Severus is going to come, and she does not have an answer to how to get his dark mark off. And then we find out that there was an uprising in Romania, and Snape was killed.
Hey.
And it changes all the plans.
Yeah.
So Malfoy says Creature is going to bring Ginny via portkey to escort Hermione. And while this is happening, Lucius has also been summoned home. And now Lucius will be living in the manor like one big happy family.
Yep.
Astoria has been gone in France for the summer, and she is also coming back.
Okay.
So we can't
Because
hang
there's
out too much.
There's a, like, I think it's the 1 year anniversary. It's basically like an anniversary celebration.
Yeah.
And so that's what she's coming back for. And Draco's like, I didn't ask for you to come back. Why are you here?
One
essentially.
day, Lucius comes back. She just stays out of the way, but we just hear that he's crazy. He's gone mad, and he's just like really violent. One day, Draco is walking Hermione out in the gardens when Astoria comes up and is like, I'm mad at you, and they start yelling and yelling. Oh, because Lucius has killed a centaur, and the entire foyer is dripping with blood.
Lucius is just straight up murdering and torturing people in the manor from the moment he shows up.
In his wing.
All right.
In his wing.
Yeah.
In his wing, but there is blood everywhere.
Yeah, sure.
All the time. And Astoria feels not great about that.
Yeah.
And while they're having this conversation, Lucius comes up just like, and then they start fighting. And
Lucius and Astoria start fighting.
Lucius and Astoria start fighting.
Astoria is like, I am the lady of this manor, and you can't do that. And he goes, I'm older than you. I am the lord of this manor.
and then suddenly Lucius just, with a flick of his wand,
Slits her throat.
and her head
Her head falls off.
comes up,
Wow.
and decapitates her, and she dies. And Lucius is like,
Oh, it was a
ugh.
fatal decapitation?
It was one of those fatal
One of
ones.
those fatal ones.
okay.
Yeah.
And
And he's just super casual about it. He's like, oh, okay, cool.
and he like picks up the body and starts walking away or something.
Yeah,
and,
he like slings her over his shoulder. He's like, I can use this, and just walks back in.
Yeah.
and Hermione's just standing
Can't waste
there.
good meat.
Yeah.
Yeah, she looks at Malfoy and she's like, "So you orchestrated all that, pretty much, right?" And he's like, "Yeah."
I was hoping if I got them in the same room, they'd annoy each other enough that one
she
of them
goes,
would kill each other.
Literally.
She goes, Lucius hasn't left his wing, so why is there blood in like the foyer? And he goes, I don't know, just happened, I guess.
Something happened to set a story off. It was weird.
Wow.
It was weird.
He's making plans. She's still researching, and Hermione finally turns to the portrait in her
And
room.
Lucius has been tasked with by Voldemort tracking down the last order member that killed Umbridge. So that is
Got it.
why he is torturing people
Yes.
and doing all of that. He is trying to find the mysterious person who is destroying Horcruxes.
Who could it be?
Who could it be? Indeed.
Yeah.
Cool.
While it's happening, she's researching, and she finally kind of gets fed up one day and turns to the portrait in her room and starts talking to her because she realizes it's a teenage Narcissa.
Yeah.
It's Narcissa in the portrait. The only person that she talks to is Draco. She will not see or speak to Lucius, who desperately wants to see just a remnant
Yeah.
of his wife. We just learned that. Draco gets tortured by Voldemort because the last order member hasn't been found.
Yeah.
And Hermione takes care of him for like 2 days because he's just passed out cold. He was cruciatused so
Yeah.
hard that he's like out of it.
And he also is slowly starting to just succumb to the physical trauma of that having happened for years and years at this
Yeah,
point.
absolutely.
Like he says something like, I can't duel anymore effectively because I'm just constantly shaking.
Yeah.
Because his nerves are literally deteriorating from constantly being tortured.
After that, he goes back to work one day, and Hermione picks up. She's like, "All right, I'm gonna eat some breakfast." Picks up a spoon, portkeyed
Oh.
to Lucius's room because her room has been warded by Malfoy so much that Lucius cannot enter the wing that Hermione is in. Really,
Right.
So he portkeys her out to get her into his room, and is like,
devious.
"We're gonna talk about things."
And it is the room that she had gone into a
Right.
while
With
back
the
that had the
cage.
cage in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which now we know is the cage that Narcissa was kept in and tortured in.
that he doesn't know, that Lucius doesn't know about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because Draco knew about it, but Narcissa made Draco promise that he wouldn't tell his father that she was tortured at the hands of Voldemort.
Sure.
He interrogates her, And she, throughout this, realizes that Draco is getting punished and tortured as a way to punish Lucius. For Lucius's misgivings of not finding this person, Draco then got tortured.
Got it.
Lucius and Hermione fight. She's able to kind of get... one of the suppressions on her is to protect the baby and to protect, don't do anything to harm this baby. And that's how she is able to fight Lucius, like, physically.
Right. She uses her mind to be like,
Yeah.
that means I gotta fight him.
So she's able to, like, go around the suppression, and they have a big fight. And during that, he goes into her mind.
Yeah, because he's basically like, you must know who the Last Order member is.
Yeah.
You're one of the Last Order members, and he's not a skilled legilimens. So the way it's described is like, it's like taking a hatchet it's like a blunt instrument when it should have been a scalpel.
Right.
And when he does that, she pushes all of the information that she's learned about Narcissa from Draco to the forefront of her mind. And he learns everything that happened to Narcissa. Then an explosion happens, and she wakes up,
Another
and
bomb?
Yep, just so many bombs.
Draco,
so many bombs.
Draco has come and has opened the thing, and they fought. And she comes to, and Lucius is like tied to the cage.
And Lucius is like a broken man at this
Yeah.
point, because he's like, I didn't know any of this. Why didn't you tell me what happened to your mother?
Right, the last little sliver of his sanity. Just,
And he goes, and as a way to like wait, he go, wait, let me talk to you. And Draco's like, fuck off. And he goes, don't you need Phoenix Tears? Because we have learned now that Hermione found out a way to get rid of the Dark Mark, but the last component of this potion was Phoenix Tears, which are pretty much near to impossible to get.
So they basically were like, well, there's no way we're going to be able to do that next, and
Yeah.
kept looking for some
Right.
other way to do it. But when he was hacking away at her brain, saw that,
Got it.
he's like, oh yeah, we're rich and old as fuck. We have Phoenix Tears. Don't you need them? And Hermione and Draco is like, fuck you. We're getting out of here. Hermione's like, but wait, this is our chance to get you out.
But we do kind of need those.
We do kinda need those.
But he was right, we do kind of need those.
Right. Yeah.
So she, in exchange for 10 minutes alone with Hermione, while Lucius is still like in the cage, he will tell them where the Phoenix Tears are. Lucius makes Hermione swear that if Draco ever wants to leave her, that she
That he
will let
can.
him. Like,
Sure, yeah.
and she swears on her magic. So it's, that happens.
And his last request basically is, he's like, I will give you these, and I will help you get my son out. I will like destroy the manor to make it look like everybody died, but I want to see my wife's portrait. And so they bring him Narcissa's portrait, and Hermione is like talking about how like the way that he's looking at that portrait is the way that Draco looks at her, like it's like
Possessive.
a starved man, a starved man who finally is seeing food is the way that Lucius is looking at his wife and talking to her, but she's not really talking back.
Right.
So they realize they only have about half an hour to kind of do everything they need to do. Hermione makes this magic potion that will stop the mark from killing him after she cuts off his arm. Hermione does that, cuts off the arm, and spends minutes, which should be really an hour, to cauterize all of the veins.
And repair the arm basically, because
Yeah.
they can keep the dark mark from killing him, but they can't remove it with the Phoenix Tears. So the Phoenix
Right.
Tears are just to keep it from killing him while she cuts his arm off.
Sure, yeah.
They take off her Lucius takes off her manacles because he still has a dark mark. All her power comes back. That's when she cuts off Draco's arm and is able to, with a wand, cauterize and do that. And they hop on a horse. They hop on a Pegasus.
Yep.
And they get the F out of there. And Hermione looks back, and the Findy fire, the crazy fire spell, engulfs the house.
A giant dragon, a giant fire dragon basically explodes the entire manor.
And Lucius burns the house down with him inside of it.
And the last thing that she sees is him just staring at Narcissa's portrait while he's in this cage.
Oh, that dragon symbolism.
They fly all night through the night to a safe house where they end up sleeping for 2 days. Hermione's head is killing her, but they kind of allow very slowly to feel happy because they've think they kind of did it.
Yeah, they got away scot-free.
Yep.
They say they love each other a lot, and they do it a bunch.
Fuck yeah.
There's a lot of safe house doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Near-death experience. You're finally safe. You're going to be fucking all
After they
the
sleep
time.
for literally 2 days.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got to get your energy up to
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah.
Draco Malfoy just got his arm cut off, so like
Yeah.
a little R&R.
He's DTF, though.
Yeah, he is DTF.
He does a lot of diagnostic spells, though, to see how her brain is doing after just all that trauma.
Yeah.
And it's not great, but it's not
Sure,
terrible.
yeah.
And they build up their strength enough to take the port key to Ginny.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
And they take a port key, and they see Ginny,
And they go to Ginny.
who immediately like screams at Malfoy
Who
and slaps him
imme-
and
yeah.
like attacks him.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that tracks.
Because Ginny has been getting the newspaper. So she knows about the repopulation program. And so
Yeah.
she sees Hermione pregnant
yeah.
and is like, what the fuck did you do? And Hermione has to step in and basically protect. Malfoy is like,
I love him.
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
She's like, you don't understand. We've been through hell together.
love him, Dad.
I need you to back off.
There, she learns that they are on an island in East Asia, a island off of Japan. And Ginny kind of shows her around this house.
Yeah,
and
Draco goes to like check the
wards.
protective wards, make sure everything's intact, and Ginny shows her to like their wing basically.
Right.
And
It's very timid because Hermione's still just like
Yeah.
agoraphobic
and
and
Ginny
scared.
hasn't talked to anybody except for her son in however
Right.
many
And
years.
house elves.
And house elves.
Right.
But Hermione immediately notices that like their room is covered in books and there's an adjoining potions laboratory.
Yeah, of course there is.
And Ginny basically like reveals that Draco has just been compiling things that he thinks Hermione would like in this safe house in anticipation of hopefully getting her out one day.
Yeah.
They are talking, and she starts to panic because she realizes Draco still has an unbreakable vow, and that Voldemort's still alive, but all the Horcruxes are gone. It's just Voldemort's the
Yeah.
last thing. But she's having a panic attack. Draco immediately comes
Because the
back.
unbreakable vow was he will do everything within his power to defeat Voldemort. Is Voldemort defeated? I don't know. And she starts to freak out.
And
Yeah.
they're finally kind of like, we've done enough. We
Yeah.
did everything we could. We can't do anything else now.
yeah.
And I said, she eats. She finally eats. She hasn't eaten in a while.
Wow.
Yep.
They meet James, which had me sobbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She meets the 1.5-year-old son of the dead Harry Potter, and I was just like, no.
And she basically learns from Ginny that at the beginning, Draco would show up like every couple of days and be
Yeah.
bringing things. And then, especially because Ginny was pregnant and he
Right.
wanted to be able to help her have this
Yeah.
baby. And then as time went on and he got less and less hopeful that Hermione would be alive or just that he would find her.
Right.
Ginny like described it as like he was bringing things to a memorial
Yeah.
for Hermione and that he was just
wow.
constantly like
Yeah.
showing up with less and less hope, but still bringing things for
Yeah.
her.
Draco and Hermione then sleep for a full week. Draco really sleeps for a week. Hermione's kind of up. And I said,
But he
do
won't
they
let her like
leave the room?
Sure, yeah.
I said,
because he's
do they
just-
pee? It's like, do they pee? What's going on?
Eventually, yeah.
I mean, they magic it away, obviously.
Yeah, but he won't let her leave. Not in like a your mind way, but in
Right.
a it makes me anxious when you're gone.
Right, I mean, they both have such separation anxiety and like trauma.
At one
now.
point,
Yeah.
Ginny's like looking at them and goes, "I didn't realize like how weird you two would be together, but you're like very intense."
Yeah.
And Hermione goes, "Yeah,
Yeah.
we've been through a lot."
And Ginny comes and they talk, and that's how the end of that chapter.
Yeah.
Epilogue number 1. They start living their lives. Hermione uses the potions lab to make a prosthetic arm for Malfoy.
Yeah, absolutely.
A very cool prosthetic arm.
yeah, of course.
Malfoy becomes incredibly possessive of Hermione.
Yeah, he's still like putting up wards and he's still really worried, and she eventually has to sit him down and say, "Hey, like, are we safe?" And he says, "Yes, we're definitely safe." And she goes, "Okay, then can we act like
Yeah.
we're safe?" And she has to kind of talk him down. But she also notices that they have sex a lot.
Yeah.
And they're enjoying just kind of being able to be together. But he doesn't have a huge interest in the baby. Like, he has an interest in the baby because she has an interest in the baby.
Right.
But he's not, like, engaging in, like, planning for the baby or anything like that. And she kind of notices that. And she sits him down and she goes, "Hey, like, you need to figure out a way
Yeah.
to get past the way that this baby was
Yeah,
conceived.
you got to stop feeling guilty about this.
Yep, and get
show
on
up.
board.
And I need you to care about this baby.
And she says, because she will know if you don't. She'll know if you're faking it, and I need you to figure out a way to not fake it. And the baby is days late, and Draco looks like he will die of chronic stress, is the quote. And he just won't leave her side, and she has a horribly long labor, and with Ginny's help, she delivers their daughter, Aurora.
Oh.
And it should be said that her memory loss gets a little worse. She goes to a mind healer in Japan. They like disguise themselves and go, and they're like, you just
kind of are fucked up now.
Yeah,
You
and
just have a fragile brain.
you just try not to do any dark magic. Try not to do this, and it'll get worse. But you're kind of here now.
Yeah.
And so that's just what they're living with.
Some wounds never heal.
They
Yeah.
give birth to the baby, and Malfoy is just scared to be around the baby. He says like, I only hurt things. I don't help them.
Sure.
Yeah.
And she convinces him that he
She
will
says,
not.
like, this is just a baby. She's not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
You're not going to hurt her.
And he immediately falls in love with his daughter.
He falls in love with her almost right away. And the line is, Draco talked to Aurora more than he talked to anyone, even Hermione.
They live somewhat peacefully for a while. They're getting news. They have like dinner with Ginny every night, so they're like being a little more normal. And they learn that the International Federation has finally like stepped in and been like, okay, Voldemort's bad.
The rest of the wizards around the world suddenly go, wait a minute.
Exactly.
Is he doing a genocide?
And they learn that Voldy is he's barred up in his castle and they can't get to him, but they're like, he has no power anymore. He's just there and he's going to die in there.
He'll die of old age eventually.
And Ginny is like, no, I'm going to go kill him.
Yeah, I knew Ginny would go kill him.
Ginny is such a fucking badass.
She's a badass in this. And they're like, what? And she's like, I'm going to go kill Voldemort. You've done enough. I'm going to do this. I need you to watch James.
Yeah.
And
Hey,
she's like,
can you guys
she's like-
babysit tonight? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, where are you going? I think I was going to go kill Voldemort.
and at this point, he's like 4 or 5, and Aurora's like 2 or maybe
Yeah.
2 or 3, and they are like best friends.
Sure,
Aurora,
of course.
Hermione remarks that Aurora has inherited her father's like possessiveness and like is very protective of James, and they love each other very much. And so when Ginny leaves and James, lives with them, she like crawls into his bed every night to comfort him because his mom is now gone.
Yeah.
She leaves from like November, and then he dies in like February.
I gotta find this art
It's like-
too because it's great.
It's like enough. Yeah, that's my favorite picture.
yeah, but
It's like 5 or 6 months.
Okay.
And then she stays there to kind of like help the rebuild.
because it essentially makes her a figurehead.
Yeah.
Right.
from then on.
She's a martyr now. Or, well, not a martyr.
Not a
'cause
martyr,
she
but
survived. But
she's
yeah.
a symbol.
She's a war hero and a symbol.
She's the one that like she won't let this die.
And she decides as she's doing that, she makes announcements. She's like, I'm going to move back to Britain and I'm going to become a teacher. And I'm going to become I'm going to become a defense against the dark arts teacher. And Aurora takes this very hard because that means James is leaving. And she just like freaks out. But, it is what it is. And Ginny's like, you guys could come back. And Hermione's like, no, we can't. Nothing can be done. Ginny's like, can I tell people your story? And they're like, no, you can't tell anyone. Like, we don't want the attention and it's just too hard.
Because
and we can't
Draco
do
is
it.
a war criminal.
Right.
Like Draco, his tragic backstory,
Right.
in the eyes of everyone, is not going to save him.
Yeah.
If people know where he is, he will be found and will be killed.
Right.
And
He's
they
a
know.
war hero and a war criminal.
Yes.
We do learn that when the International Federation came in, a lot of people ran away, including Stroud, the healer. And then one day we see the news that Stroud was killed off the coast of Brazil, and Hermione
Mysteriously.
runs to Malfoy and is like, don't kill anyone else. And he's like, I had to. She hurt you and you hated her. And she's like, I don't ever want you to kill anyone else for me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, she's like, we're done with this
yeah.
now, basically.
Yeah.
and we learn that Aurora grows up. She goes to school in New Zealand.
Can I say this part?
Yes.
Okay, so Aurora grows up and she goes to school in New Zealand. And then the last chapter is Aurora. She's graduated school. She's now in British
Diagon
Alley.
Okay.
She meets up with Ginny and James, and Ginny is showing her around. And at this point, Aurora is fully briefed on the backstory of her parents.
Right,
She
she
knows.
And so is James.
And they know that they're keeping it a secret.
Right.
And Ginny takes Aurora to Hermione's favorite bookstore and is like, this was your mom's favorite place, but don't, And she sees a book that is a history of the second Wizard War.
Right.
And she is like, she reads about her parents, and I'm just going to read. This is the end of the thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what they have to say about Draco. Draco Malfoy was a monster in a man's skin. He may not have resembled Lord Voldemort in appearance, but his legacy would have been identical. To manage so many consecutive killing curses, a person must be utterly without empathy and virtually soulless. And then Hermione, there is a picture of the trio that they took at Christmas.
Got it.
Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Hermione's in the middle. There's art for this too. I'll show you. It says, as a footnote under this photo of them at Christmas, the Hogwarts Trio, Christmas 2002. Harry Potter with friends Ron Weasley, see Weasley, Ron, Chapter 7, and Muggle-born witch Hermione Granger. Granger left England at the start of the Second Wizarding War to study healing abroad. She survived the war but died during imprisonment while a surrogate in the repopulation program. She was a non-active member of the Order of the Phoenix and did not fight.
And that's Manacled.
Manacled.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Oh, that was real good. That was so good.
It's a long one, but it's really good.
I'm going to have to go read it. Like, that's just...
I
really good.
highly recommend you do, because we glossed over a lot, actually.
Yeah.
It may not feel like it at the end of a 3-hour recording session.
You could tell, though.
But there's a lot more that and it's just so good.
Yeah.
So how many raccoons and trash cans would you give
Wow.
it for Shared Secret?
I mean, god damn. I mean...
I tried to, count the secrets, and I couldn't.
Sure, it was so many.
I mean, I think just the big
so many
one
layers
is...
after layers, but, the big one of,
He's a double agent.
They're both double agents,
Yeah.
and both hiding it from their own,
from themselves and from each other.
My favorite secret is the Savoy Hotel.
I love that
Right.
secret.
Me too.
It's great. I mean... it's hard just on the epic scale of it not to give it a 5 out of 5 trash can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
Thank
really,
you.
I will say one of the things that initially was going to be a detractor in it for me is just before the flashback, the first section where it's just all the Handmaid's Tale shit of bedding and repopulation and sexual assault and all of this. It's just that's not fun. That's not fun to read. It's hard. It's hard for me to even the sexy moments don't feel sexy when it's that kind of stuff. So for the first good chunk of this, I was like, you really love this, but I am not
And can I just
feeling
say,
it.
so when I initially messaged Emily to get her on board with doing this with me, I was so scared that section would be what made her go, you know what, never mind, I'll try to find a Kindle Unlimited. But I also didn't want to spoil it for you. So I was just over here pacing, being she just needs to get to the flashback section.
Yeah.
If she can get to the flashback section.
It honestly wasn't until he killed all the Death Eaters that I was because I liked it, but I was not on board with them as a romantic couple, really.
Sure.
I was just okay, I know they're gonna fall in love, I know something's gonna happen, but that's fine. And then that happened, I was okay, I like the passion. I now the stakes are even higher.
Yep.
Because that's how much he feels for her.
Yeah.
So 5 out of 5.
I think 5
But
out
yeah,
of 5.
the initial
Nice.
Handmaid's Tale stuff ain't fun, and then we get the backstory.
Right.
Yeah.
Basically.
Well, just because it gives this almost. I mean, it's weird because she doesn't really have agency, but she did in the moment. She was like, "I want this life, and I will submit myself to whatever hardships come with making this choice of I'm gonna wipe my memory because I need to keep this secret because I love this man." And then it's not it's still it's touchy.
Oh,
but
yeah.
The layers that it adds of that is enough for me to be okay, because I do love the I am going to make a sacrifice because I need to do this thing, and I'm going to willingly submit myself to this, and I'm not going to remember it, but it is what I gotta do. I think that's a fun trope, and so seeing it here was that helped take the edge off that in enough of a way that I then could be excited about the rest of it.
Because when she was in her right mind, she was trying to find a way to be with him.
Right.
And she cared about him, and he cared about her, and all of that stuff exists.
Well, and then it makes his behavior in that first section so much more interesting too.
Yeah.
Where it's like, why? Like, I mean, I guess like. Cool that he is having issues with this, but like, why is he?
And that was the fun thing for me because this was a reread,
right?
So when I was reading that first section, I was like, oh, that's why he's doing this. Like, he's being cruel to her because Voldemort is looking in his mind as well, and he needs to hold his cover, and he's doing XYZ for this reason. And so that was really, really cool, just as like a It's a very rereadable thing.
Right. Well, and like I'm sure also too, like when he's diving into her mind, he doesn't necessarily know why she's put up that. Like, I mean, I'm sure like part of it is like your cover, but he was like, she's real fucked up. Like he's like, oh, you've gone through some trauma. I don't know that, like, you know, yeah.
And that was easier for me to be like, okay, I understand this Hermione is fucked up, but like in the flashback Hermione, I was like, she was the smartest witch of her age. Like. The fact that she couldn't do her stunning spells, but I know it takes practice. Like, I'm this whole, like, back and forth of, like, this is not the Hermione that I know.
Yeah. Which I really, and I know we disagree on this. We were texting about it, but I really liked that because I thought that was pretty realistic because, like, she's talking so much about she has seen horrible things. Like, her friends have literally died in her arms despite her best efforts over and over and over again. And so it was realistic to me that would change somebody and make them ultra focused on healing and these specific things, and then everything else would fall by the wayside.
But the fact that she's such a proponent of the dark arts makes me think like, okay, like she continues to study.
Yeah.
And so I would think she would know how to like practice more. Like there's just a little, I just wanted her to be a little more competent.
Sure.
Yeah.
Than she was. But I overall loved it.
Yeah.
So I just want to. Those are my like tiny things about it, though.
You tiny things.
I think my favorite moment was when it's Draco and Hermione are having this conversation where he's like, "If you don't take care of yourself, I'm gonna kill everyone you care about because that is the only way."
That's what you need.
Because apparently that's the only way I can get you to care about yourself is to care about others. So good. I love that that moment of like, I see you, warts and all, and I'm going to read you for filth right now.
Yes.
I love that, especially in Enemies to Lovers, because I think that's something that shines so strongly in those, because there's an element of like, only your worst enemies really know you well enough to like twist that knife in that way to be like, but actually I care about you so much that I will be a bad guy if it means your survival.
Was there anything that from this episode, this very long episode, that piqued your interest for the next episode?
An idea I had that I want to take your temperature on.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, cut all this out so that we're not wasting people's ears listening to this bad idea.
Too late.
I had the idea of what if I gave each of you like the same song as like, find a story that this song makes you think of and bring me like if you were gonna pick the soundtrack for a story, it would be and the song that I was thinking of was Green Light by Lorde. I was like, what if I just give you your prompt is that song, listen to it, whatever it makes you feel, go find a fic, go find a fanfic, and bring me one that captures the vibe of Green Light by Lorde.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm on board. I'm on board.
I mean, I have no idea what Green Light makes me feel, but
you'll have to listen
to it. Listen to it.
I do love that song.
Can I propose? But
okay.
I love that idea.
That's really interesting.
It's going to be a challenge, but I'm up for it.
What made? No, we'll save that for the next episode.
Should we wait and talk about why? The next episode.
Let's wait and talk about why you think that, but or why you wanted it. But I think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah.
So next episode, we're going to listen to the song "Green Light" by Lorde and pick a corresponding KU/fanfiction that makes us think of the vibe,
the lyrics,
the feeling.
Oh, it's gonna be great. I'm
into this.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I'm so excited.
I know it's a little bit different than the prompts you've gotten in the past, but I had the idea. And I was like, that's kind of fun. I'm gonna see what they think.
Yeah,
I think this is cool. Let's do it.
Okay.
All right. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for hanging in there, listener.
Thanks, guys. We love you. We'll see you next week with Lorde's Green Light.
Bye.
Bye.
Femmes Reading Filth is hosted, produced, and edited by Emily Barusian and Jessica Mall. Intro music by Tom Lehrer. Outro music by David Reddick. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Femmes Reading Filth. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.